and your children are turned into mindless vassals who now they look up to some twit instead of looking up to Thomas Jefferson or looking up to Nikola Tesla or looking up to Magellan. I mean, kids, Magellan's a lot cooler than Justin Bieber. He circumnavigated with one ship the entire planet. He was killed by wild natives before they got back to Portugal. And when they got back, there was only...
But why? $22 million in 3 fucking hours!
There is no nobility in poverty. I have been a rich man and I have been a poor man, and I choose rich every fucking time. The real question is this: was all this legal? Absolutely fucking not.
Neither go towards the feeding grounds at the edge of the ice, nor return to the colony. Shortly afterwards, we saw him heading straight towards the mountains, some 70 kilometers away. Dr. Ainley explained that even if he caught him and brought him back to the colony, he would immediately head right back for the mountains. But why?
What's your dream? To go away.
To go away. That's right.
Do you guys want to drink? I don't understand why everybody has to be so judgmental. I understand why mom's judgmental. I think it's because she cares partially. I think it's also partially because everyone else is looking at her like, hey, Cody's just a bum. Cody's this, Cody's that, Cody's this. Cody's me, bro. Let me be me.
What up, what up, what up? We're back. Wednesday? Is it Wednesday already? Yeah, I think it is.
Wednesday already. Midweek. We're here. We're back and we're live. We're better than ever. I hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to another day. We got a fire stream for you guys today. The Arcium ecosystem deep dive. So we got a few Arcium eco projects coming on. We'll deep dive into the tech. And we'll also bring on the Arcium team as well. So we have our first interview coming up with Yannick in about 15 minutes. So at 12:30, we'll begin our first interview. We're inviting Refi Hub back on the stream at 1:15. And so they'll be able to give us some general updates on the project and some updates on their side. And then at 1:30, we'll have Zinc come on. If you guys are familiar with Zinc, it's that basically like an ore, except it's private. It's that proof of work privacy, private mining. So that protocol. So we have a ton of great guests coming on the show today. I'm certain that you guys will enjoy this. If you guys remember, Yannick's interview, Yannick, he was interviewed by Tucker Carlson, and that interview did like 2.6 million views. So yeah, we did so we have quite the guest on today. Can't wait to interview him. But before we even get started with everything, let's just let's run everything back. let's do some housekeeping here. Let's do some housekeeping. We do this every single stream. You guys should be familiar with what you need to do right now. I'm gonna pull your screen back up, actually, Josh. I mean, Dom. Bang. So as you can see, Dom's screen is up here. So go to @MCG Live on Twitter. There's almost 100 of us in here right now. So you want to go to @MCG Live. Appreciate y'all for 10.5K followers, by the way. And on our pinned tweet, so you go to @MCG Live. On our pinned tweet, you'll see this current stream is live. What you want to do is you go to the tweet, you scroll down, you hit like, and you hit retweet. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go down, I'm going to hit like, and then I'll hit retweet. Let's get the word out. Let's get the word out. It's almost 100 of us in here. So go ahead and smash that tweet there. Let's get the word out about the stream being live.
Look,
all right.
This is an exciting day. Okay. I want to underpin this by just saying, you guys might not have heard about Arcium, but Arcium is your favorite project's favorite project. This is like the underlying infrastructure technology for like all these privacy protocols you know and love. Of course, today we have two on, Refi and Zinc, which Zinc has been absolutely blowing up, and Refi is live with their ongoing raise with Crafts. And of course, Arcium powers that, but you also know others like Umbra, so on and so forth. We're going to get into it. So I think they raise at a 200 million valuation. They have a token coming soon. This is not one to miss. It's going to be a really great episode, and I can't emphasize that enough. Well, Chill warms you guys up. We got 15 minutes before we have Bionic come on. It's exciting. I'm going to take a whiz, frankly. I'll just give it to y'all straight. Gonna go take a whiz real quick, and I'll let Chill run it for the next couple minutes.
Man, go do your thing, bro. Go do your thing. All right, guys. So here's just a quick market overview for you guys. So you know, we see that altcoins are continuing to outperform Bitcoin, at least right now, right? Like we see, you know, this inorganic move up. A lot of altcoins started popping off, and a lot of people expected as we came down for altcoins to also kind of pull back. But as you can see, you know, we see a ton of green on the right side here. We have Hype at all-time highs. We have ZEC at pushing the range highs. We have Near Protocol pushing local highs, and we have, you know, a ton of other stuff popping off. Jito, Ondo, Renders even having a good day, and WorldCoin up almost 40% as well. So we have a lot of things happening here, which makes things very, very interesting. So to give us a bit of an overview, let's look at this chart here. Total 3 divided by BTC. Let's see if we can find this chart real quick. I don't think I can. So I'm just going to settle with the others BTC chart. If you guys have been following MCG for any length of time, you know that we have been following this chart, you know, since for about a year and a few months. This is one of the first charts I showed you guys last year back in April when we first started the stream. And basically I said that, you know, we're coming down to this 8-year trend line that we've bounced off of every single time. And we broke out of that here earlier this year, and now we're seeing a full-on rally in a ton of these alts. I'm showing this chart to show you guys that this is only just beginning, right? Like obviously this is a bear market, so we still have we still have another bull market ahead of us. If you guys follow, what's his name?
Ansem?
Oh, not Ansem. It's RTC Capital or something like that. But he's a great account. And basically throughout the bull market, he's basically like posted, you know, this sort of progress bar as far as how long we have gone into the bull market. And so he's been very spot on saying, hey, look, we're at like last year, Q3, Q4. He's like, hey, look, we're at 80, 90%. Bull market's over. And now he's kind of posted this recent tweet to basically say, hey, look, we're at about 56% progress into this bear market. He just posted that just I think yesterday. Here's the tweet actually.
Oh wow, we just
Not
pulled
that
up
one, this one.
No, okay.
Yeah, so here's the here's the Rect Capital tweet. So that's his name, Rect Capital. He's a great follow. So you guys should definitely give his content a follow. But basically, he's kind of comparing. He's a 4-cycle guy. He's a 4-year cycle guy. And he's basically saying that, hey, look, we're about 65% of the way into this bear market. In other words, we're over halfway done. So why is that important? Because if we're over halfway done, the second half of the bear market isn't going to be as bad as the first half. Right? So as we continue on in the next, over the next weeks and months, we'll eventually find a bottom on Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin will start its overall macro rally. But even before that bottom is even found, we're already seeing that that these altcoins are already doing well. So I say all of that to say we aren't even out of a bear market and these coins are doing well. I can only imagine what happens when we're in a full bull, right? And this bear market is coming to an end. So that full bull is not that far away.
Yeah, the strength on alts has been super interesting. I think you can attribute a lot of it to the fact that this bull market, we just had absolutely no alt season whatsoever. So many of these were just beaten down and at zero. And it's like further and further, Bitcoin continues to fall, continues to get pounded, and these things just continue to go down. Equities and everything else is just absolutely on a moon mission ripping. And so you get this unique situation where there's a lot of undervalued crypto projects that are actually doing great revenue and are completely overlooked because Bitcoin is just hammering them down. And it's kind of breaking that trend now to where it's like, it just is not feasible for some of these projects to continue going down. Either from a growth trade perspective, they should outpace, growth and have outpaced growth, outsized gains, outsized growth, or the revenues are looking really good. And simply, there is a big misunderstanding of the price that these are sitting on chain. And so we're seeing a lot of repricing despite Bitcoin kind of getting nuked. And I think that continues to happen. Ansem and others made a really good point about this. It's not going to be a broad wave of every altcoin runs, I think, like we've seen in the past cycles, right? A rising tide lifts all ships. In this case, I don't think a rising tide lifts all ships. I think many actually just sink. And you get a handful of outperformance in the ones that you see on the screen here. The hypes and nears, the Zacks, the Taos, or the Tons, whatever, world coins, Jitto, the ones that have been here for a while, doing real things, growing, continuing to grow and doing well with revenue. And so I do think we see a sideways or down Bitcoin, but sectors that outperform, specifically like privacy and maybe others, privacy, of course, being a topic today. But yeah, just wanted to jump in there and chime in to back you up, Joe.
Yeah, no, appreciate that because, I think this is it's a land of opportunity right now, a lot of low hanging fruit. And we're already seeing a little bit of outperformance, but what I find to be the most important thing to pay attention to is paying attention to what sectors are actually outperforming, right? Like what sectors are actually showing momentum, and privacy is one of them, which is why we're doing this whole Arcium Privacy Day here today, because it's a huge narrative, right? So that's one thing to note. With the others Bitcoin chart, just kind of getting a lay of the land in terms of where altcoins, where on-chain sits. And this is what I use to kind of get a read on exactly how I need to position on-chain. Like obviously down here, you're doing a lot of buying. We still haven't even popped up a lot. You're doing a lot of buying, a lot of accumulating. This is a place to look for longs, look for things to be bullish on, look for narratives to be bullish on. And then, obviously, as we get towards the top of this channel here, that'll be the place to ultimately get bearish and be cautious. But, that's far, far in the future. So as far as how that relates to Bitcoin, let's quickly start to high time frame. Obviously, I've told you guys, for a long time about this 2-week fair value gap, respected as resistance. A lot of people were telling you in this red fair value gap, oh my gosh, we're going to 100K, new bull market. People were bullish. Obviously not. Sub 60K still remains to still remains to be the target. As we go down to lower time frames, let's look at the 3-day, for example. We're starting to come into an area of support here, an area of demand. We'll see if this holds. I mean, this chart looks pretty heavy. But if we do get a bounce in the short term, I've kind of told you guys that I'm looking for a bounce to make a lower high before we like completely nuke it to sub 60K. And honestly, it's good to happen. If I would love for it to just rip the band-aid off and happen now, because ultimately altcoins they're outperforming, man. Like they're doing well. So if anything, let's just take a dip now, and we'll be fine. But whether we get the bounce or whether we get the nuke, here's what I'm like paying attention to. Still, obviously, the main ones, right? You have the hypes there. Hype is at all-time highs and, continuing to look pretty good. I'm seeing this on ZEC though. Let me actually show you guys this. I'm seeing this on ZEC, on Zcash, this head and shoulders on Zcash, and I'm like, dude, whoa. So
I'm a Zcash. I'm a Zach hater, honestly. We'll see what Yannick has to say about Zcash, because this privacy narrative is hot. Obviously, Zcash doing well is kind of kicking this off, leading it. But I don't think their growth has been good. I think their numbers are pretty poor based on what I've seen. And I think like no one wants to go to a whole nother chain for privacy, and it's encrypted and quantum compute resistant or whatever. But no one wants to go to a whole nother chain to do it, which is why like privacy at the local chain level, I think, is important, right? So that's why I'm more bullish on things like Railgun, for example, which is privacy on Ethereum or privacy for an entire blockchain, or something like Arcium, which is, at least as far as I'm aware, Solana-based privacy rather than a whole new chain. I think it's got to be, chain specific.
1000%. I've also kind of seen some cracks form in the thesis around Zcash, but it's kind of been. I've heard a lot of people actually say they prefer XMR over Zcash, but like Zcash is just kind of like the bet that everyone can leverage. So that's the one that kind of goes up. But then people say that also Bitcoiners, OG Bitcoiners are buying Zcash. Zcash is the new Bitcoin because it's quantum resistant or what have you. So obviously while there's cracks in the thesis, there is still a thesis, right? So. But I'm taking all of that into consideration because like this is like kind of like what this chart is looking like it wants to do, right? Like we're in a right shoulder and it just looks like it wants to fall off of a cliff. So just something to be aware of there on Zcash, head and shoulders, near protocol. Man, dude, I'm smashing these longs, dog. Smashed along on hype, smashed along on Zcash right down here after this SFP formed at 520. Smashed along on near protocol. Chill, what do you think about the FVG on Solana down?
Bro, we're not going
down around.
Don't even say that, bro.
Dude.
Don't even think it.
I'm looking for the other two majors to do the same thing Bitcoin's about to do, right? Honestly, I thought Solana would hold up a little bit more, but been seeing a little bit more FUD on the timeline around Solana, but here's what I'm looking for Bitcoin to do. Bang, maybe we go higher, and then we just tag this zone, and then we start going up, right? That's what I'm looking to for Bitcoin to do. Same thing on Ethereum. It's probably gonna tag below the range low. Same thing with Solana, right? Tag below the range low. And, whether we SFP it, quick lick sweep, or we chop around the lows for a little bit, who really knows? I'm on the side where it's going to be like summer chop, at least on the majors, and probably, these alts. I mean, I don't see a reason for them not to continue to outperform, right? But yeah, I mean, I think the summer is going to be more of a lull than anything. But yeah, that's hype, Zek, near. We have our interview coming up in about a minute. I'm currently long ton. It's coming out of this FEG, this 12-hour FEG, and a huge order block there a huge order block on the daily, so, or on the weekly, I should say. But yeah, we got a couple more setups. But honestly, like if you're not in right now, like Tau is the lagger. Obviously Tau is still kind of below the range low, whereas stuff like Render, they're well above the range low.
And we're
Stuff
seeing
like
a bit of an
Ondo,
AI season, AI privacy season, private AI specifically with like Venice and
VVV.
whatnot. But you look at Tau, man, and Tau is just hard to bid. Like unique concept, it's super cool, but they've lost their biggest what's the name of it? They've lost their
Their
biggest.
edge.
No, not their edge. Their subnet, one of their biggest subnets, or their biggest subnet
Oh
that went
yes,
not long ago. Which is like,
yes.
if we're doing that, it's not a great look. And also, like, a lot of the Tau subnets that are profitable or are doing really well are only profitable and spitting out cash because they're really incentivized by Tau, right? And they're getting a lot of emissions. So Tau's a tricky one to bid, man. I think they really got to fix some things up, but keep an eye on Tau. If they can start making changes, bring on some good subnets, have some outperformance, maybe you start looking at it again. But for me, this is just like a fade at the moment.
Yeah, it really is. I've been really paying attention to like ICT type of trading, and I've really adopted that as my main kind of ideology around trading. And obviously right now you see that this daily range that Tau is in between, 234 and 333, right? Between here and here, it's now broken below the range low. So it looks like it wants to, this looks like a market structure shift to me, and looks like it just wants more downside. We are going into this weekly FVG. So I do want to like obviously keep that in mind, and I want to look for reasons to be bullish. But yeah, I mean, when you have subnets leaving, right? When you have this ecosystem that's really geared towards like the bigger whales, right? Like the whales control the ecosystem within Tau. And there's been a long discussion around Tau and how they need to like further kind of decentralize their process, and like because right now it's just controlled by the big money that's on that chain. So I say all of that to say it's not easy to be a subnet. It's not easy to thrive as a subnet, and obviously that's bearish for the overall Tau thesis. And so, you want to see a change in the thesis for sure, but then you also want to see a little bit more of a reaction in the chart as well. So good, just one to monitor, just to see if there's anything. But yeah, we got some great stuff. Dude, WorldCoin, bam, WorldCoin smashing. You're on mute,
Insane.
by the way.
Insane. We've had this discussion about WorldCoin, and I think the thesis is largely predicated on Sam Altman and his push potentially for this. Again, I need to see something from it other than just a founder, but I think there is a lot of enterprise deals that they're signing. And, people look at this as potentially a way to get in the good graces of Sam Altman and the OpenAI cabal, if you will. And so WorldCoin is catching a bid. It is pretty cheap. I think it's $1.5 billion fully diluted value, which is, I think, relatively cheap, ranked number like 35 on CMC or something off the top of my head. So like, I get it being a growth play. It's a little more risky, I think, until we start seeing more focus on this. But we're seeing, the founder of TON, for example, come out and really support this TON token. So we're starting to see some bigger figureheads kind of pick this up and maybe back a token. So we'll see. I have no idea what to even say about WorldCoin. But chill, we have our next guest up, so I'm going to get into that. Unless you have any last closing thoughts on this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, in the waiting room we have Mr. Yannick, founder of Arcium. Now, this guy's really special. He's had appearances on Tucker Carlson. You probably know him. He's on the Mount Rushmore of privacy, known for, incognito mode, known for those little privacy things in the bathroom when you go into the stall and you're trying to take a little piss. That's your guy right here. This guy is truly a legend. It's your favorite privacy protocol. A lot of the privacy protocols you guys use are actually using Arcium technology on the back end. So this is the man. This is the man you want to pay attention to in all things privacy. So we're super excited to get Yannick up today to chat a little bit more about Arcium and what they're building. Yannick, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dom and Joe. Pleasure to be here.
Dude, we're really excited to have you. We want to jump straight into it. There's a lot of things to cover today. I think people are really excited about a potential TGE coming up. They're really excited about the ecosystem you guys have crafted. Of course, we have Crafts and Zinc coming on after this, 2 projects you guys are involved in deeply with your technology. So we're excited to get the full scoop. Do us a favor. Let's start at the top. We want to know your background, kind of what qualifies you to build this, and get into the lore of Arcium a bit more. So maybe start us there.
Sounds great, yeah. And thank you for the amazing introduction. What we're doing with Arcium is we are building this platform that enables you to add privacy to any kind of application. We are enabling encrypted computing for blockchain applications, but also AI applications. We have some very big announcements on that front very soon. And as you pointed out, we have our full mainnet launch coming up. My personal background, I got into crypto a couple of years ago. Initially, I taught myself to program when I was a little child, then studied law. While studying law, I built an app which became the most sold productivity app on the Apple App Store, which then sort of led me to reconsider what I was doing, and I pivoted towards mathematics and computer science, and that's how I got into privacy and cryptography. And now with Arcium, I've assembled this amazing team. Everyone has basically spent most of their life building in privacy, building cryptography, some of the smartest cryptographic researchers in my team. And that has really enabled us to build Arcium over the past 2 years, invent entirely new cryptographic protocols to enable a new form of privacy for crypto applications and private AI.
Yannick, I want to set the stage a little bit because we're seeing a lot of fervor for privacy recently. Obviously, Zcash kind of leading the charge. We're seeing a lot kind of trickle down the risk curve for privacy, and people really get interested and excited about it. I just want to get your thesis on privacy in general to set the stage here. Why is privacy important? Where are we going? Does privacy belong to a specific chain, or should privacy be at the protocol level? Maybe just give us your thoughts there and help us understand your perspective on the privacy outlook as a whole.
Yeah, so privacy matters a lot, not just within crypto. I think crypto really is going to be the source of a new wave of privacy across any domain, any sector, any technology stack. Crypto itself is just this very innovative space, which now that we have institutions and way more mainstream adoption coming in, we also see this inflection into privacy. Now we're in 2026 right now, and as you pointed out, there is this privacy narrative emerging, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One reason really is awareness around privacy. Specifically, I would say one key trigger for that has been breakthroughs in AI that really have shown us the value of data. Right before that, it was very hard to grasp what does that even mean, value of data. But now everyone understands the tremendous value of data. And secondly, actually the maturity of privacy technology. So with the kind of privacy technology that existed a couple of years ago, it would not be possible to have built something like an Arcium. We really had to do a lot of cryptographic research and then implement those new protocols. So both things come together right now, I would say. And that's why I have a very optimistic and excited outlook into the future by looking at all of the teams already building with Arcium, looking at some of the confidential protocols we have built in-house, we haven't shared publicly yet. I'm very optimistic about a future where most AI, about 95% of all AI, will be encrypted and confidential by the kind of technology that we've built. In the same order of magnitude, on-chain transactions, transfers, trading, interactions will all be private by default.
Why did we ever, I guess, not have privacy by default, right? Obviously, crypto, the ethos is, you can track everything on the blockchain. Of course, there is this cyberpunk ethos where the privacy is also really important. But why did we think that privacy was never the standard? When we look at the financial markets today, you don't want someone seeing your entire bank account history and spending history, or the things you do just in your day-to-day life. Why is it that it took so long to kind of get to this point where people are like, man, privacy is really important? Of course, you mentioned AI, but any further thoughts on that?
So fundamentally, nobody wants to go out of their way to get privacy. People are lazy, and people also don't understand the implications of their actions. And so that's this core constraint that we need to work with when it comes to privacy. And fundamentally, that's the reason why it doesn't exist in crypto. I think there's a second reason as well. The argument you made about transparency, I think, is less of an actual argument and more of an argument that has been sold to the public. If you look at the Bitcoin Twitter account, it famously says traceable money or something like that, right? So that is this argument where people have been, oh no, crypto is a good thing, right? Because it is surveillable and traceable, which is not actually a good thing. So right from the get-go, actually, privacy has been important, not just the cypherpunk manifesto and cypherpunk sphere, but also for the initial days of Bitcoin. But technology wasn't ready back then. And so now technology is ready. Now we can add it to all of the different blockchain networks. We are enabling privacy on Solana. We are fundamentally, however, not just enabling privacy in this simple sense, like you would think of when you think of something like a Zcash, where it's very one-dimensional. We are enabling this form of confidential computing, right? Being able to privately compute over data that nobody can see. So we can take everyone's transactions and encrypt them and perform any kind of computation over that. And when it comes to AI, we can take your prompts, encrypt them, and make sure that you're the only person in the world that has access to your prompts and the outputs. And so fundamentally, I would say both for crypto, but also for AI, what this new form of privacy enables us to do is different from how privacy was working in the past. Privacy in the past meant we need to minimize the amount of data that is used in services, right? We need to isolate things, but now we can utilize information. And that's the fundamental difference. When you look at AI, we can utilize as much information as possible, encrypt it, make it secure, make it safe, make it inaccessible to anyone who shouldn't have that data, and then get more powerful results. And so that's why privacy itself is going to be huge in the future, because through encryption and privacy, you will get access to actually the most valuable kind of outputs and results, be it in crypto, AI, or wherever.
This is fascinating. I want to get to your positioning in crypto AI because I feel like that's something we definitely need to touch on. But maybe before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I want to walk us back through the origins of Arcium. You guys have been around for a little while. You guys have conducted some pretty awesome raises, done some pretty cool things. Can you just talk us through the timeline that took us from origin point to where we are today?
Yeah, sure. So initially, we started 4 years ago on Solana, and back then we were building CK-based privacy. So we ourselves went through a huge technological evolution, and that evolution, I guess, was kickstarted by disillusionment about the technology that we used back then. So back then we were using CK, and the issue that we encountered really was that we couldn't do much with it. It was way too limited. It forced you to operate over data that belongs to me, data that belongs to you, and can never interact. And as I just outlined, the value really sits in enabling interactions between private information without ever having to share that information. And that's what we're doing. And so we evolved into Arcium, entirely switching out the tech stack, building our Cerberus protocol up from the ground, doing all of the cryptographic research and designing that. And what really helped me towards now our full upcoming mainnet launch in only a matter of 2 years is that I also acquired our largest Web2 competitor. So we acquired our largest Web2 competitor who have been around for many more years and did some of the most foundational research within that cryptographic realm, some of the smartest cryptographers out there. And that really allowed me to build this protocol so fast because I have this very strong team. So we were able to execute very fast, onboard many amazing teams on Solana to utilize our tech. And I think what you're seeing with those teams building with Arcium nowadays is that many of them aren't what you would traditionally consider a privacy project. And that's the world where I want to move towards, where the underlying technology just enables a new feature set. Crafts, for example, is currently doing Solana's first sealed bid auction. And we have many more teams where privacy itself is not what is being sought, but instead all of those properties you get from encrypted execution. So that's what I'm very much looking forward to. And the numbers have been insane. So Zinc, for example, who are doing the encrypted store of value, which is very interesting. They are doing enormous amounts of encrypted computations with Arcium. So currently in our mainnet alpha, we are processing around 150,000 transactions per day, and the numbers are going up exponentially. And yeah, we are by far the most used and largest privacy network out there, even though we're not even in full mainnet yet. So yeah, I'm very excited about the private future.
Very, very impressive numbers. I saw you tweeted about that the other day, and I'm glad that we were able to share that on screen here. I wanted to just double click on one thing that you said. You mentioned that, you know, you guys went through sort of this technological evolution where you kind of moved away from ZK because the ZK tech, because it was too limited or is limiting. For those that may not be familiar with privacy, at least from my vantage point, ZK kind of seemed like the pinnacle of privacy and all the technology that people were excited about. So describe to us a little bit, how big of a deal is ZK, and how big of a leap into, how big of a leap from an innovative standpoint did you guys have to take to, innovate beyond the ZK tech?
Yeah, so ZK is being used in the Arcium tech stack. It is mainly really a cryptographic primitive. So fundamentally what ZK in its pure form, how it is used is it enables me to keep information to myself. In the case of a crypto transaction, that would be how much I'm sending to you, or how big my balance is, right? So that information I can keep to myself via a zero knowledge proof. By having that information, let's say my balance and how much I want to send from my balance on my wallet, and then I'm going to prove something about that. I basically prove that I'm allowed to perform some transfer of an encrypted amount. But this interaction is me proving that about the information I keep to myself. Now, when we want to do something like trading, we want to build a dark pool, something like that, we want to do confidential lending, we want to do confidential DeFi, it's not just me doing this one-dimensional interaction of I have information, prove something about it, I'm going to send it to the blockchain so you can receive it. It requires the underlying information that ZK keeps private to interact with each other. So we need to lift it into a multi-party setting. That's why we have built secure multi-party computation protocols, which enable us to compute over information without anyone seeing it. Yet we can get outputs as if all of that information was public. And that is one of the most powerful computational primitives you can have, because we can do ZK with that. We are doing that with confidential transfer. So within our cryptographic protocols, even ZK is running. But fundamentally, what is enabling all of that is encrypted execution, and ZK is only a small addition that we add for verifiability. So I think one big misconception was that people sold ZK as a technology that would enable all of those things, while it structurally cannot. And so that's why we ourselves, relatively early identified that, and then decided that we had to be the ones building this new technology that enables us this private future. And I think we are seeing that play out in the market as well when it comes to adoption.
I want to ask where this private future happens that you're talking about. You mentioned something earlier. You said you acquired the largest Web2 competitor of yours, which is incredibly impressive. We're also talking about AI a bit, and this being like an AI play in the angle there. Are you guys only focused on Web 2, or does this go beyond to Web 3? Obviously, you have the ARX token that's coming on Solana hopefully soon here, or to be determined. But I'm just trying to figure this out. Is this just for crypto projects, or is this going to expand to Web 2 as well and beyond?
Yeah, so we already have Web2 teams using our tech. None of that is announced yet, but we have that, and I think that's important. That's the direction that Arcium is heading. So our ecosystem on Solana is incredible and growing every single day. While at the same time, we have this interest from traditional companies that never once in their existence before encountering Arcium had anything to do with crypto, which I think is amazing, right? And that is this. It fundamentally boils down to what I just described, providing, in my mind, the most powerful primitive to humanity you could have, which is we can compute over data without seeing it, without having to share it. And that just becomes more and more important when it comes to AI, not just for AI inference and training, but for safeguarding information in general. And the company, the Web2 competitor that we acquired, they did work for some of the most important and biggest institutions, including the US government and the European Commission. And so that's the future that I'm seeing for Arcium, where every single sector uses our technology. Every single human on a day-to-day basis uses our technology. And this ecosystem that we have right now is only the beginning.
Yeah, this is fascinating because, as far as I was aware, I've seen the Solana ecosystem. We're very entrenched into it. So, of course, familiar with Crafts, familiar with Zinc, familiar with Umbra, and so many others that you work with. This was a whole nother thing, a whole nother side of the business I wasn't completely familiar with. I didn't know you were positioning in Web 2. And I think a lot of people are going to be excited to hear that, because we see things like Venice, we see things like these robot strategy companies that are positioning in private equity robotics. People are very interested right now to get access to private AI companies and a lot of more Web 2 focused things through crypto rails. We're even seeing the pre-stocks, X-stock stuff. And so I think people are going to find a lot of interest in knowing that you guys have your foot in the door in a big way on the Web 2 side. This is kind of what we do on the show. We like to squeeze this information out. Maybe it's unannounced, but I want to talk more about this Web 2 if we can. Are these all AI companies you're working with for the most part, or does this kind of go beyond the AI umbrella?
So right now it is companies using our technology for confidential AI. That's correct. And some of the use cases that this competitor that we acquired were doing in the past went beyond AI. So they were the leader in confidential encrypted AI worldwide. But some of the use cases they did, especially with governments, went beyond that and went really into this area of we need to safeguard the most sensitive kind of information and enable parties that don't trust each other to compute over their information. And that's really the scale at which Arcium is operating. So instead of having this company that just provides those services, Arcium becomes this global network that provides anyone with those services.
So this is really interesting. We see these interesting token primitives kind of popping up with Venice, who, you buy Venice or stake Venice, get Diem. You can get $1 a day and compute from that. We're seeing a lot of things pop up like Crafts, which you can buy equity in the companies if you're an accredited investor. We're seeing things like Bedrock, so on and so forth, where these really legitimate revenue generating companies are coming on chain and they're, having this token. When we talk about the ARX token, how are you thinking about this? Is this going to be a governance token? Is it going to have some sort of equity ties? I just kind of want to gauge where your head's at in regards to this.
Yeah, so our network fundamentally is not a blockchain network. There was a very conscious decision to not build Arcium as its own blockchain and then force people to come onto this blockchain. Arcium instead comes wherever it is needed. I think of it as this purple octopus that just spreads its encrypted tentacles everywhere. So I think that has been important and one of the reasons why we have built the largest developer ecosystem and number of transactions, computations, and usage across all of crypto privacy so far. And it works the same when it comes to enterprises and traditional companies using Arcium. They fundamentally use this permissionless computing network. And the network itself requires third parties to run nodes. And I won't go into the details, but this cryptographic protocol that we've built, Cerberus, that requires us to have staking and slashing. So for us, it has never been an artificial decision. For us, it has been a strict requirement just from the game theoretical and mathematical properties of how Arcium functions in order to ensure the network is processing confidential computations and no malicious party is able to DDoS the network. So that's why the Arcium network itself will be powered by the network token from day one. And then, there's staking, stake delegation, rewards distribution for the network. But fundamentally, we are not a company that acquires customers and we have a token. Instead, we are a company that onboards people onto the network.
Got you. I want to get a better idea of the size of this because we've talked about how this could be integrated in everything, how like everything is going to kind of move to this private world. It's more valuable than ever. People are understanding it more now than they used to. And so I want to help myself and the audience kind of gauge the TAM here, the total addressable market. You know, how big could this thing really get? And of course, it kind of ties into your vision. So it's probably tough to put a number on it, but when you think about the TAM and size of this market, do you have a number that comes to mind when you think about Arcium and just the field you're playing in here?
The market that we are addressing is a multi-trillion-dollar market. And I'm aiming to be capturing that market.
There we go. I mean, that's exactly what you want to do. And what kind of market is this specifically? Is there a specific facet or vertical you guys are most focused on right now, or just it kind of extends to this really broad array of things?
So I think it is important to have a focus, right? I think specifically when you have technology that is so applicable for many different sectors, it could be incredibly dangerous to be attempting to go after all of those sectors at once. So that's why we are very strategic about that. That's why also Solana right now is the only supported crypto network for Arcium. Because even within crypto itself, it is important to perform strategic expansion of this network. So when it comes to segments, we are hyper focused on two things. Confidential AI. We have built and soon will be unveiling the leading privacy preserving AI product in the world. And then secondly, it is really on-chain privacy, confidential transfers, confidential trading, confidential capital markets, all of the amazing tech that our ecosystem teams are building.
So I saw that you spent a week in Washington, D.C. You tweeted out about that. I believe it was maybe a few days ago, maybe a week ago at most. What are those conversations like? I know there's probably a lot that you can't share, but I mean, what are those conversations like? What are regulators like really? What are they worried about? What are they focused on? What's the angle there for you guys as well, for Arcium? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the US regulators are very much in favor of privacy, I would put it that way. Very much in favor of on-chain privacy as well. And they believe that is a strict requirement, and even goes so far as having conversations in Washington, D.C. about I guess the desire from many different parties and also regulators and legislators to be changing very old regulation about things like bank secrecy to instead update them to how money should flow with on-chain privacy. So I was leaving Washington, D.C. after having many confidential discussions and meetings about privacy. Very bullish when it comes to on-chain privacy and crypto as a whole, I would say.
So you guys, you earlier described yourselves as a company that onboards. That's really, you guys are just a part of the onboarding effort to this network. How do you see these conversations kind of like leading towards that onboarding effort? Are there going to be like kind of laws that benefit Arcium specifically, or is there a network expansion opportunity there where you're just kind of, they're opening doors for you guys? How do you see that kind of playing out in your onboarding efforts?
You mean regulation?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think regulation has always, to a certain extent, acted as a driver for privacy as well, and so that definitely enables us to onboard many more institutionals. At the end of the day, when you look at on-chain privacy and institutionals, they seek privacy, and they are one of the leading pushing forces for on-chain privacy. And regulation plays an important role there, because these kinds of players need regulatory clarity and compliance, and at the end of the day require a very versatile privacy stack, and that's what we're offering with Arcium. So I would say on that front, it helps for sure, and I think we are at the beginning of a big wave when it comes to on-chain privacy adoption and private compute adoption. So private compute for things like private AI inference and agents that utilize privacy, but also on the front of as security measures to protect against this AI future. I think it goes both ways, in order to safeguard information. So yeah, I'm having way too many conversations on all fronts, I would say, and I think what we are currently struggling with at Arcium is to onboard all of the computational demand we have, both on the AI and on-chain privacy front. So yeah, we don't see
in the past, we've seen, like the Tornado Cash developer. He was put in prison unfairly. Was it a surprise to you that regulators were in favor of on-chain privacy? It comes as a surprise to me anyway. A lot of people think of governments in that way.
Yeah, so I think I wouldn't put all global governments into the same bucket as the US government on that front. I think they have been leading, when it comes to crypto. When it comes to Tornado Cash, I think a lot of it, and we see these kinds of things happen occasionally. It's not just been Tornado Cash, but I think privacy itself has always been in a tension, where privacy preserving technology is evolving faster than regulatory frameworks. But what we've seen in the past and what we're seeing right now is that the technology itself sort of shapes reality and the situation we find ourselves in, and then regulation adopts as well. And so the current regulatory stance is that, and the same holds true for crypto as well. So it just opens up the space for technological innovation to shape new applications and new technology. And Tornado Cash and Roman Storm have been leaders when it comes to privacy as a human right. Privacy as a human right is something that Arcium's technology stack is supporting. Anyone can build the most cypherpunk kind of privacy application with Arcium. At the same time, we can also onboard large financial institutions on chain that require privacy for compliance reasons, and serve private AI use cases.
I mean, you guys have made one last question on this. You guys have made absolutely insane progress. In a way, you guys remind me of Hyperliquid in that there's a relatively small team building out a product that has immense demand. Talk to us a little bit about the rest of the team. Who's supporting you on this? How many people are on your team? And then we can get to Dom's question.
Yeah, we were only 16 people, 3 PhDs, a lot of engineers. So I appreciate the comparison and the kind words, because my team has really been building out Arcium in record time. If you look at the privacy landscape, in a fraction of the time that other technologies have been built, we built Arcium while being the most scalable and trustless on the market, and serving the highest number of customers even before our full mainnet launch. I think, secondly, our community has been important as well. Our community here on Solana, we have been part of the Solana ecosystem for many years now, and have grown together with it.
Got it.
I want to touch on, and that's fantastic, by the way. I want to touch on kind of the go-to-market here, because I see you partner with Solana to do some of these events. Obviously, we saw you guys at Accelerate. Big representation from the team down there. It was really great meeting up with you guys and seeing everyone. I want to talk a bit more about this go-to-market, because you said, hey, we're growing rapidly. We have a ton of inbound. How are you picking and choosing the people to work with? Is there some sort of incubation and acceleration going on for the projects that are working with you? Could you maybe just get into some more details on that?
Yeah, so when it comes to our on-chain ecosystem, we are supporting them in any way we can. The first team that we incubated is Umbra, and we have a couple more incubations in the pipeline, which we haven't publicly announced yet. So very excited with all of the traction that the teams that have been building on Arcium have gotten so far. And you're just playing the, I don't even know what it is. I think it is important to not just be building infrastructure. I think that is this old legacy crypto approach of building infrastructure and then expecting people to build on top of that infrastructure. Instead, we've very consciously taken the approach to build our computing platform and then work as close as possible with those teams, and help make those teams grow big, because ultimately the technology only matters if it is adopted within applications, and we are trying to find the best applications out there and help them get big.
And when you find one of those applications, let's take Umbra as an example, and they're very well received. They go and raise some money. People like them. The community likes them. You guys see, the team every day. How do you cultivate them, and what does it look like to really work with them? How are you accelerating? Are you helping with marketing and distribution? Are you helping with relationships? I'm trying to get the full picture of like what role you guys play in this stack here.
Yeah, I would say everything you described. On every front, we can help. We will help. Be it distribution. You mentioned earlier, I've been on the Tucker Carlson show, the only ever crypto founder to be on the,
Wow.
I think it's third largest podcast in the US. And there's some even bigger stuff when it comes to mainstream distribution coming up. So we are really helping applications on every front, be it technologically, be it shipping new features, be it marketing, be it distribution, be it product strategy, be it introductions to VCs or other teams to work with.
Yeah, it seems like if I'm picking a team to work with, Arcium is definitely top of that list there. You guys seem like a great partner to have. With that being said, I kind of want to talk through a bit of your raises. Obviously, you did acquire a company back in the day, your leading Web2 competitor. You've raised at a significant valuation and some significant cash here. Can you talk us through some of those numbers and fill us in on that?
Yeah, so back when we started 4 years ago, we had many tremendous investors believing in our capability to bring privacy to the world, who have supported us in this huge transition into Arcium. And at the same time, we also did a community public sale, and we did a sale on Echo, all of which got oversubscribed very quickly. So I think when it comes to investment, I'm very thankful to both the private investors we have, like Coinbase Ventures, Solana Ventures, and others, and then also the public investors like on CoinList and Echo.
Got you. Can you talk me through this this mainnet alpha here? It seems you guys are live with the mainnet. Can you walk me through, I guess, what comes next and where you go from here?
Yeah, so mainnet alpha has been our deployment of getting the first applications live, like Umbra, Sync, Crafts, and many more. And the second phase now is launching full mainnet, which, yeah, as we discussed earlier, requires the full network to become permissionless and be powered by ARX. So, but that itself is also just the beginning, I would say. So mainnet alpha, I would describe as a test run almost. Even though in that test run, we have seen more usage than any other privacy network out there in crypto. But it is only the beginning. We have not yet even seen the potential of adoption, and that will come in the months after mainnet launch. And right now, privacy as a whole is not even used yet. And now we have the tech ready. Now we have the teams building. Now we have the traditional companies starting to adopt the technology. So I'm really expecting exponential growth over the next year.
I want to touch on growth a little bit. Obviously, we've had this screen up before in the show. Can you tell me just about some of the growth, some of the numbers for users of Arcium and what that looks like? Would also be interested and curious to hear about just on the revenue side for the Web 2 company and of course Web 3 as well, how revenues are growing and looking today.
Yeah, so fundamentally, the network itself is processing encrypted computations, and that's what you're seeing here in that Explorer. Every single encrypted computation that is landing on our network, and transactions taking place on Solana. And those numbers have seen tremendous growth, where nowadays we are averaging around 150,000 transactions and 40 to 50,000 encrypted computations, where we are very busy improving the infrastructure, working together with the node operators, and boosting the protocol numbers. So we are currently expecting an additional 20 to 100x performance increase over the next few weeks and months, while already we are the fastest privacy protocol out there for encrypted execution. But that will put us into a way different league. So just to be able to serve all of the computational demand. What you're not seeing within that Explorer yet is private AI. As I said, all of those things will be unveiled soon, and you will be able to see all of the private inference compute that is being used with Arcium as well in that Network Explorer in due time.
And can you talk me through a bit more on the economics of the company? How are things doing in that sense? Are you guys looking good? How is runway from previous raises looking? Just anything there helps.
Yes. So I'm in a very happy position, and team size has remained the same over the last year, I think, and we've really been I think it boils down to us founders being German. I don't know if you could tell, and
something about it.
I think there's a specific way going about business where we are really hyper focused. We're really hyper focused about revenue generation and building a sustainable, yet rapidly and fast growing company. That's just how I was taught to build companies from my grandparents, and so we're in a very good position.
And kind of to tail off of that here, you mentioned raising earlier 2 or so years ago with a community sale, and raising for the token. Can you talk me through just any of the economics that we're going to see in the future? Is there any plans for that to flow back to the token or token holders at some capacity?
I mean, my ultimate goal is to literally have everything economic be bound within the network itself as this permissionless, decentralized thing, right? I don't want to have any revenue in an equity entity. I want all of that to be on the network level, 100%. Yeah.
That's really interesting. So you're not thinking of a separation between token and equity. It is just, this is the token, this is a network, and ideally everything flows through
Yeah,
there.
I mean, exactly. Yeah. But I'm describing ideal world scenarios where there is constraints you need to work with, but that 100% is what my team wants to see and we are working on.
It's a fascinating conversation because we're seeing people try to do this in forms of putting some equity on chain or hyperliquid where they put a lot towards buybacks. Is this just, and I think a lot of people like yourself are trying to innovate in this front to make sure, all economics, all success, growth, et cetera, flow through the token. Is this just a regulations thing at the moment, or what's kind of the hold off here for not only yourself, but just everyone else?
I mean, it's funny that you should mention it because Crafts is also innovating on that front, right?
Right.
They're specifically enabling teams to tokenize equity, use sealed bid auctions to perform ICOs, to get capital raised on chain for actual companies, actual startups, where then a portion of equity is assigned to that token, which is an approach I'm very, very much supportive of, and they have been leading in innovating on that front of tokenized equities, and I believe that is also going to be the future for a lot of tokens. So in my mind, there is going to be network tokens and there is going to be tokenized equities in the way that Crafts are doing them. That I think is the future, those two kinds.
Is there a specific way you're leaning?
I mean, Arcium itself is a network token, right? It is a network. And fundamentally, the network itself requires the token. If the network would not require the token, I wouldn't have built Arcium in the first place, right? Because it is this network that fundamentally has to be sound on the cryptographic and economic front.
Well, I think the next obvious question here that everyone wants to know, when TGE?
That remains confidential. But
Private?
we are moving closer and closer towards mainnet launch, and you should follow the progress, I guess, because it is quite imminent, I would say.
Is mainnet launch going to be coupled with the token launch or separate?
Yeah,
separate?
yeah. As I said, the network itself requires the token. Otherwise, we cannot move into full mainnet. Yeah.
Okay, so you just cracking the whip on the devs there, making them get that pump that mainnet out, and then we can get excited for the token. Okay. Well then, Yannick, it's been a fascinating conversation. We've covered a lot of bases. I'm going to get into roadmap and kind of like the future vision, where you see yourself going in the next year, maybe even 3-6 months to a year out. It's hard to plan so far ahead now with AI and how quickly things are moving. But I have one great question here from Crypto Jones I want to cover as well. And when you think about privacy, there's so many names that come to mind. And again, I tell everyone, Arcium is your favorite privacy protocol's favorite privacy network on the back end. But what sets Arcium apart in your mind from other privacy protocols or people trying to innovate in this front?
Versatility, scalability, and trustlessness. We are leading on every single front. We have the most versatile protocol where you can literally do everything from confidential on-chain transfers to soon fully encrypted AI inference. At the same time, we have the most scalable protocol, highest throughput, fastest encrypted computations. And at the same time, it is the most trustless. So we are the only dishonest malicious security protocol out there.
Awesome, Yannick. One more question from Crypto Jones here. He always has great questions. It's an interesting one that I didn't really think of here. He says here in Canada, he's a Canadian local. He goes, we don't have free speech, and questioning certain narratives can end up with your bank account being frozen. From what I understand, the German government is no better. Is Arcium subject to German laws and censorship? Maybe talk us through, I guess, general thoughts on censorship in general, and then how German laws apply to you guys, or if you're based out of somewhere else. Anything on that?
So Arcium is a censorship-resistant network. And fundamentally, that is one of the reasons why the token exists, to ensure censorship resistance of the network. We have built the most censorship-resistant privacy protocol. As I just mentioned, it runs in this trust model called dishonest majority, where we only require one single honest participant in the network, where with traditional blockchain networks, you require most of them to be honest. So it is the highest degree of censorship resistance you could get, because we've built a new specific cryptographic censorship resistance protocol where the token comes into play. So that is one important aspect, I would say. Then the implications of that are, it is a open network like any blockchain, and any actor, be it a state actor, be it a private actor, right, can attempt to attack those networks, but at sufficient scale, they're not able to. That's the way I think about it. When it comes to where Arcium is based, we are based in Switzerland, like many privacy companies are, but that on the level of the development company. Yeah.
All right, very good. I guess close us out with this final thought here: roadmap, vision, where are things headed in the next 3 to 6 months to a year plus?
Mainnet, and that will kick off the roadmap for the next few years, in which we'll make sure to onboard all of traditional finance on chain and be offering them encrypted execution and the best privacy out there, enabling new applications. We'll see the Arcium ecosystem 10x, 100x from here over the next months, and then 1000x, where at some point we will not even be able to build ecosystem maps of the ecosystem, because it's so many companies also outside of crypto using our technology. And all of that, I would say, happens in parallel while we are revolutionizing how AI inference works, because we're making it fully private now.
When can we be looking forward to or expecting some of these announcements on the outside of crypto front for some of these AI companies you're working with? I think people like myself, obviously, are very excited.
There's an easy way to address that. You just enable notifications for the Arcium Twitter account and my Twitter account, and there's no chance you could then miss them. And yeah, with that being said, very soon.
Let's go. I love it. Yannick, this has been a fascinating conversation. I think undoubtedly you guys are leading this race here, a very strong team, and someone I think a lot of people would want to work with. It's been a great conversation, and we're excited to keep track of it and watch you guys grow.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Of course. Take it easy. See ya.
Yannick, take care. Thank you for your time.
Stay encrypted.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. He's a stoic man, but he just, he was dropping bangers, dropping sauce on you guys. So
I like to call it deliberate. He was very measured, very deliberate in how he spoke. You saw, but you can still see the sense of passion that he has for privacy. You obviously can get a sense of his knowledge base and how in tune he is with not only his protocol, but his positioning within the broader sector that is privacy. There's There's so many different things to dig into there, with Yannick. But dude, I
mean, TLDR, Yannick has been coding since he was a child. His team's cracked. They're operating very lean and efficient, is what it sounds like. They're pretty much like I keep saying, your favorite privacy protocol's favorite privacy protocol. They're working with a ton of people, including Crafts and Refi, who we have coming up next, and Zinc, who we have following that, and Umbra and so many others. They've raised significant money from really good backers. TGE is coming. He mentioned that the token's kind of going to incur, or at least the grand vision is the token and the network incurs all growth and upside, which is really nice to hear. I think we've seen a clear deviation from the traditional norms, where it's just there was a token and there was DAO governance over it. And now we're seeing full token networks kind of come on chain and all the growth and upside going to those holders, which I think is really nice. He mentioned he's working with Web2 companies. He mentioned they acquired the largest Web2 competitor they had in the space a couple of years back, which is really incredible, who had relationships with the US government and so on and so forth. If you can read between the lines, there was a lot there that was covered, but there was a lot you can pick out and I think really take away from this and get excited about. So very cool stuff.
Last thing I'll say on this, he said that, they have a pretty big distribution. What did Crypto Jones say?
He said, I'm pretty sure he's been an extra in every World War II movie ever made. I swear I saw him in Inglourious Bastards. I swear.
That's crazy.
No,
but he said that they've been on Tucker Carlson's podcast or show. That's the third largest stream in the US. And he said the third largest podcast in the US. And he said now he's been on MCG, largest, two of the largest shows ever. And now then did you notice what he said after that? He literally said, we have much bigger plans than that, as far as distribution is concerned. I'm like, how much more
he's
distribution?
Cold, man. He's cold. He's a killer. He said, look, the total addressable market is trillions of dollars. We're looking to take that market, is what he said. I'm not sure if you guys peeped that. He said,
done deal.
We're looking to take it all. It wasn't like, hey, most vendors come on here and say, here's the TAM. We just need 1%. And we're doing really well. It's a $100 billion market. We just want 1%. And, there's $1 billion carved out. He's like, now this is a multi-trillion-dollar market. Everyone's going to be using privacy. We're taking it all. Let's go, dude. Let's go.
Crazy. Amazing interview. I know we have, I believe, Refi.
We got Philip. We got Philip in the waiting room. I'm not sure if he's going to be coming on for Refi or if Refi's coming on for Refi. But either way, Philip, if you give us a thumbs up, we can pull you up. So we'll see.
But
now again.
Thumbs up.
Sweet. All right. So here's the word, guys. I'll give you guys a little lead up to it. We have Refi coming on, or Philip in this case, from Crafts, for the first bid sealed auction ever on Solana, encrypted through Arcium, of course. They're alive with their raise right now. I believe they've cracked over 100K, and they've got like 2 days left. So looking to close it out. We're just going to get you guys a scoop, what you should expect, what this token is, how you can get involved, and everything you should know should be broken down here. So Philip, we've had him on plenty of times before. He's back again, looking good as ever. How you doing, Philip?
Thanks for having me. Good to see you guys. Good to see you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, everything's great. Excited for this one. Excited to now show like a live sealed bid auction, not just a test auction. Excited to be here, and I think the Refi Hub team will be joining later as well. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll get you what we can here and kind of just jump straight into it. We've already had you guys on the show, so people have a general idea of what it is you guys do, but maybe at the top, just to refresh all the new people's minds or anyone that hasn't heard, who are you? What is Crafts? And then who is Refi and what is Refi, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I think putting it simply, we're building new private market infrastructure, but private market infrastructure is actually liquid. So in this case, in our first step, what we're doing is actually taking startup equity, tokenizing it, and bringing it on chain so that regular people have access to startup equity through a token that's like governance vehicle over an SPV.
Nice. And could you tell us a bit about yourself as well for those that aren't familiar with you?
Yeah, I'm Philip. I'm the co-founder of Crafts. I'm our technical lead. Bunch of experience on Solana, built different protocols in the past, and now really focused on building this new liquid private market infrastructure that can scale.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt there. It's a different experience than people are familiar with on on Solana. Maybe you could just give us some of the lore there. You've talked to us about this, but I think it's good to refresh people's memory here. What's the lore? You saw this, you saw there was a flawed system here. You saw tokens just didn't have the value time and time again. We saw examples of people investing in tokens they thought were good businesses and seeing nothing when an acquisition happened, or getting rugged despite the business doing well. What was the vision here for what Crafts decided to step in and do and build?
Yeah, I think the vision more long term is really giving broad access and building programmable ownership. But in the like initial, what we've seen is that, as you've seen, you have Houdini swap being acquired for 18 million, and they're winding down their token just a few weeks back.
Crazy.
So I think the token was like a 3 million FTV or 4 million FTV. It dumped 250k FTV post, them winding it down, and 4 weeks later they are announcing that they have been acquired for 18 million by Soul Strategies. And I think that's exactly what we are solving. So we give people real upside and a clear stake of what they're getting. So in our first case of Refi Hub, they're actually putting at least 10% with up to 14% of the equity behind the token. And with this structure, if Refi Hub is ever being acquired or it becomes a multi-billion-dollar business, people actually participate in that upside.
It's probably better to talk to the team about refi specifically and why energy is important, why it's maybe one of the most important things I think of this generation in the future. But I will have you talk about some of the numbers because maybe you understand this just as well. Could you talk me through how much they're raising, what they're looking to raise, and maybe before we get them, just a quick brief TLDR on what Refi Hub actually is?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me give that breakdown here on what I think and what makes sense. Can I share my screen here?
Yeah, please do. You know how to do it?
Yeah, for sure. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I will pop it up as soon as you pull. There we go. All right.
Yeah. So we're currently live on the screen here. I'm actually revealing my bits here. Blur that out. But yeah. So basically, Refi Hub, they're an energy infrastructure project that's bringing yield from solar assets on chain. They currently have around 14% APY on the assets that they have, and they're looking to scale that in the next year to over 30 or 40 million. And on this page, what you can see is that they are looking to raise a minimum of 400k. We launched this auction yesterday. They have around 118k committed from 101 participants. And with the 400k, it's a 10% equity stake at a 4 million FTV. So people are actually able to bid what valuation they would like to join the race. So you could, for example, say, okay, I'm willing to pay a 7 million FTV for Refi Hub, and someone else could be saying, I'm willing to pay 5 million, and then whatever the clearing price is, you're either included or not included. So in this case, they're looking to raise a minimum of 400k at this 4 million, which results in the 10% equity stake. And if they're able to reach 560k as a raise, they're able to give up 14% for this 4 million. So the company FTV is 4 to 8 million, and they're putting 10 to 14% behind the token. And then what you have here is all the details. You see this is the company FTV range, and then raise range comes from this percentage. So for example, if the company FTV, so if there's enough demand to fill, 1.12 million, 1.12 million at 8 million, they will be able to raise 8 million, but only if there is enough demand. So actually the market demand determines what's the company FTV and what's the raise range. And at the same time.
And so the goal of this style here is that people, investors can come in and say, this is what I think this company is valued at. I can't see what other people think, but based off my knowledge, my research, my due diligence, this is where I put the value on. And you want to get basically as low as you can to get the best valuation, but also don't go too low. Otherwise, someone else will edge you out and get filled on their position rather than yours. Am I understanding that correctly?
Exactly. And this is, I think, one of the use cases that we've built because, in crypto, it's always, we have this huge, how I see it, this huge experimentation field. And our focus is really on market infrastructure. And with that is private market infrastructure. So that's a natural fit why we integrate Arcium, because we're building new private market infrastructure. And I think the seedbit auction is just a showcase of what we're doing in terms of private market infrastructure here, because it's something that is, the gold standard in economic theory. You do it for treasury auctions. Google used it for their IPO. But I think we can actually apply this to ICOs and give people, as you said, a fairer aspect on bidding on these companies and allowing a fair price discovery to happen at this primary markets and not set a number on an arbitrary spreadsheet and then make sure that everyone commits and you just sell 10% of the supply because you can't sell more because you already overpriced the FTV. So in this case, it's about bringing these tokens on-chain at a fair valuation and doing this with the sealed bid auction. And as you say, people can do their due diligence, and I think that's what we provided here as well, giving people access to the full roadmap, the full risk factors, and all the numbers that they need on current traction and the pipeline that they have in place.
And I want to break down, what happens next, right? Let's say the raise goes through, they raise 400 or 500K, whatever, they get 10% equity, 10% of equity goes on chain. Now you have a liquid tradable proxy on ReFi Hub. What are the scenarios that happens from here? So you have this liquid tradable token. Let's say ReFi goes and gets acquired, or let's say ReFi goes and prints a bunch of money. They grow exponentially, or maybe they IPO. Like, what are the outcomes and I guess next steps after this raise is completed, so people understand like further on?
Yeah, sure. So after let's say 500K has been raised, okay, and or 600K, and we have the full 14%, and there's like 12.2 million tokens. So that's always the total supply, and 10 million goes to the participants in the public sale, and then we seed directly liquidity. So 2.2 million will be seeded for liquidity. And the good thing is that we actually use a liquidity strategy where we have concentrated liquidity. So that actually around this price that has been discovered, there's more liquidity. So this actually gives us, for example, even after the token goes liquid, there would need to be 3 times the selling pressure for this token to go minus 20%. But at the same time, also like the upside, it's not really suppressed, but it's just the infrastructure is more liquid so that there's less pump and dump. I think that's very important for these kind of ownership tokens. And let's say they are getting acquired, right? So let's say they're building up their pipeline. They get 200, 300 million assets under management. They produce 12% APY. Maybe they launch a vault on Camino. People will be able to, and they work with big asset fund. They already have TrueFin as a LOI, and they fulfill this and have more asset managers coming on to their platform and have 200 million assets under management. They grow to a valuation of, let's say, 100 million. They get acquired by one of the bigger players in the RWA space. In this case, if 14% is tokenized, we have actually the legal structure set up. We have an independent director. So the 14 million is going to the SPV. The independent director would, if it's like a wire transfer, they would on-ramp the money to USDC, and then the USDC would sit in the treasury of the SPV, and then token holders, for example, could vote to liquidate that 14 million. So someone that's now putting in, let's say, money at a 5 million company FTV, and it goes to 100 million company FTV, could actually make a 20x on their investment.
And to further on this kind of thought of doing what the traditional market has kind of done already and just bringing it onto crypto here, in traditional markets, you can go and buy up supply and then actually have claims on this ownership and go and, potentially buy more of the private shares or take it off the market. And again, like, this is not my wheelhouse, so maybe you could explain that a bit better. But, I think if you buy 30% of the float, you have access to potentially buy the remainder of it off the open market. How are you guys looking at that? Could someone come in and say, look, this project looks really undervalued on chain in the liquid market. I want to own 10% of float. If I buy a certain amount of tokens, can I buy out the remainder of the equity and kind of own it on my balance sheet personally?
Yeah, I think that's something that we're looking at, how these kind of conversions could look like for someone to take the equity link and then put basically the claim that the SPV has to its own fund. Like, these are kind of structures that we're looking at. Currently, we don't have a solution for that. But I think in the future, as you said, right, like, we want to build this new kind of private market infrastructure and all the licensing that is required. So that's definitely a use case where you say, okay, you buy the equity link token to get access, but then you convert some of that SPV stake, let's say it's 14%, and you, as you said, bought maybe half of it, you can convert 7%. to another structure, or 10%. And then you burn those tokens in order to get the supply. But I think in the end, I think what we want to enable is that this structure that we have actually has meaningful. And I think this is long term something where it's really cool. Let's say we have, for example, 15% tokenized, and the company has a major decision to make. So what I thought is, what if we, for example, we could have a decision market for, okay, how would this decision actually impact the liquid price? But then this decision market doesn't actually fulfill what's the outcome. But then you have the founder that actually sees, okay, these are the three options, and this is how investors actually price these options. And here is the decision I make. So the SVB has like a very big impact on the decision, but it's still on the founder level to make that decision. And that way we build kind of a new market infrastructure that hasn't been possible before.
Got you. Let's pull up Avery here to talk about refi himself and kind of give everyone the scoop from his perspective. Avery, are you good?
Hey, how's it going?
Doing well. Welcome to the show. We are excited. You guys are in the midst of a raise. Exciting times for you. How are you feeling?
Feeling good. Feeling very energized. It's been a hectic few weeks getting everything in place, but yeah, feeling a lot of good momentum with the raise, with other areas of the business. So feeling good.
Very good. We have about 20 minutes here. So what I want to do from you is kind of just give people a better idea of what refi is, what you guys are building. And to do this, I'd love to start with your background, and we'll kind of try to keep it brief and quick because we got a few questions to get through, but maybe your background, and then you can jump straight into what refi is and how you guys are building, or what you guys are building, excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Avery, the CEO, one of the 4 co-founders of Refi Hub. And my background is in the sciences. So within that, kind of managing teams on executing deliverables, raising funding for scientific initiatives. So a lot of skills that have transferred to running a startup, and a lot of visibility on the energy sector. So for the last 10 plus years now, I've been really tracking the energy sector, tracking the movements within it, and just seeing the inevitability of electrification, which I think is just becoming more and more prominent. So leads nicely into Refi Hub.
And
basically,
real quick, I just want to jump in before Refi Hub, because you mentioned energy, and this is something so prominent right now. I mean, we're seeing copper do very well in terms of commodities. We're seeing all this energy going towards AI, and researchers will say the world does not have nearly enough to facilitate like the demand we're going to see come in, and the demand we're already seeing come in. So just from your perspective, to kind of set the stage for everybody, what does the energy market currently look like, and where do you see it headed, and where do you guys fit in?
Yeah, so the energy market has been dominated for a very long time by traditional energy markets. So fossil fuels, oil and gas have still made up a very large percentage of energy. Coal, what we've been seeing is that most markets around the world, EU-driven, Southeast Asia, are setting very large renewable energy targets. So this has been something that has been happening for quite a while, related to kind of meeting climate targets. What we've seen with AI is that kind of irrespective of that, we have just been seeing the demand balloon. And really the only energy source that has been keeping up with that demand, which has just been absolutely plummeting in price to kind of install to get each kilowatt of energy, has been solar. So at a time when, gas prices are through the roof, when we kind of, anytime there's increased geopolitical instability, electricity prices go up. We have solar as a specific asset class that has just been going down and down in price. I think it's dropped 98% in the cost to install each kilowatt hour of solar in the last, 30, 40 years. So the way we see it is that, it is the most obvious trend that's happening right now. As you mentioned, AI data centers, adding to that, EV targets within countries, robotics. So what we want to do is capitalize on that trend and bring it on chain. We think that, energy is going to become a dominant real world asset class. So for us, it's, can we set the groundwork to become the dominant player in that new asset class.
And I guess with that, it's a perfect lead on into, what refi is and how you guys have been building to become that dominant player you just mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, to keep it simple, we allow users to invest USDC into energy infrastructure. So they get real revenue share rights from already constructed, already energy generating, yield paying solar assets. So as electricity is sold, a percentage of that revenue goes on chain, is funneled through smart contracts, and is paid back to investors. So just bringing the ownership of this asset class on chain. Yeah.
And could you walk me through a bit of projects you've already done this with? People you've worked with, projects you've done with this with, the success rate, the APY, and kind of returns people should maybe expect from some of these projects?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have two different asset classes that we have funded so far. So our primary focus is on solar. Before that, we did launch 2 EV charging projects. Those are spread between 6 projects, some in Brazil, 1 in India, and then Singapore is the kind of main market that we're going into these days. What we're building towards is that each of the kind of new developers that we launch with, specifically in Singapore, neighboring regions in Southeast Asia, has, tens to hundreds of millions in assets, so that they can scale, alongside us as we, increase demand, increase platform TVL. We can very easily increase that with these developers. Throughout those 6 projects has been just about 490K in assets funded, and average across the solar assets has been about a 14% IRR. So varies. The highest IRR we have on one asset's just shy of 20%, but some of them are kind of lower, closer to 12. So it all kind of averages out to that 14%.
All right, very good. Obviously, you guys have this ongoing raise live on Crafts right now. I guess the question for the investors: how should investors look at this? Because you're not investing right now, or at least to my knowledge, you're investing in equity in the company here through Crafts rather than specific projects. What are investors getting, and what does that look like? Maybe give us a better idea there.
Yeah, I think the way that we're seeing things is that by investing through the Crafts raise, you kind of get in on the layer on top. So the assets that we're bringing on chain are excellent assets, yielding quite high returns, very stable, predictable, and I think that there's a large segment of people who are interested in that. But I think if you believe in the energy narrative, if you believe that energy is going to become a dominant real world asset class, getting in to the layer, the kind of financing layer on top of that, is really where the upside accrues. So it's not just how are these deals going, it's okay, who else is doing this, how much revenue can be generated from these deals. And for us, what we're seeing is that the last 20 months since our first project listing has been very slow, brick by brick, growing out everything, platform, audits, legal, compliance, developer relationships. Now we're at a point where we have just over 49 million in assets in our pipeline that are kind of various stages ready to be funded. And we have, tens of millions in interest from fund managers, including already a letter of intent for 10 million signed. So the way that we're seeing things right now is this raise is kind of the opportunity to get in just before we switch from that building brick by brick phase into the connecting these pieces, kind of rapidly increasing the TVL on the platform.
Okay, well, you just said a few things that I think investors are going to really like. You said there's 40 million plus in asset pipelines, $10 million of interest, tens of millions of interest, and a $10 million letter of intent that's already been signed. With that being said, like, these are a bunch of numbers, they're big, they sound great. What do the economics of the company look like? Let's say you do sign a $10 million deal yielding 10 to 15 to 20% returns yearly. What percentage of that flows back to the company, right? How does growth factor in? I'm trying to understand that part a bit better.
Yeah, exactly. So given that we are, the only people doing this at the moment, given that it is a new asset class, something that people want access to that they can't get access to elsewhere, given, the kind of high level of thought that goes into this, we are able to charge, quite competitive fees along with this. So with every listing, have a 3% deployment fee as the asset is funded. But then more importantly, we have a 12.5% recurring yield fee that lasts for the lifetime of the asset. So remember, these assets are listed between 9 and 30 years each. So just to put that into perspective, our goal is to reach, over 20 million in volume within the next year. What that would do for us is $500,000 towards the company in one-time fees, plus 400K in annual revenue. And that would be regardless of whether we list any new businesses. So we reach that 20 million, stop listing businesses. Of course, not going to happen. We're, aiming to go much higher than that. That would be 400K recurring revenue for decades from that point onwards.
This would be 20 million in volume from the token launch, or 20 million in volume from all these different properties, people putting money into each one to fund them.
So it would be primarily through the individual listings. That would be 20 million in new solar assets funded. What we are also working on in the final stages of is Vault, which is basically a single token that is fed by the yield of, eventually dozens, hundreds of these solar assets. And what that allows us to do, allows us to remove the KYC barrier, importantly, allows us to introduce an element of liquidity, and allows us to have a fully DeFi composable asset. So we've already been in talks with Camino, understanding exactly how we can integrate, this asset into being used as collateral into the borrow lend pools, for example. So that kind of gives us a focus and an instrument that we've seen a lot of demand for within the kind of institutional capital we're talking to.
Yeah, so we kind of have seen this, and help me understand if I'm understanding this correctly. It would be sort of a basket or ETF of all the current properties you guys have listed. And then also, now these are, like you said, 15 to 30 year contracts, but once they kind of fall out, you'll have maybe a treasury of new projects you're looking into invest in. And as that treasury fills up from deposits, you go and invest further into those. And all of this is kind of one big ETF that just constantly appreciates over time with revenues flowing back to that ETF token, if you will. Am I understanding that correctly, or maybe you could explain it better?
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's pretty much spot on. It would be, managed throughout time as new projects launch, as, some projects maybe perform higher or lower than expected, as we want the kind of Vault token to have diversified exposure within certain geographies, for example. As all of those components happen, it would be rebalanced so that there would be new assets constantly flowing in. As time goes on, some assets might be sold, and that would all be balanced with a liquidity reserve. So a portion of the tokens being held in stable coins, which would facilitate in-house withdrawals, obviously, as we lead up towards kind of full LP native, allowing people to trade it with kind of thick liquidity walls, Jupiter, Radium, etc.
So do me a favor. Why is a raise like this necessary? Obviously, the numbers are pretty good. It seems like you guys are doing well. Always more money always helps accelerate growth. We understand this, but maybe walk me through the thought process of, hey, we're giving up 10 to 14% of our company here to get some more bootstrap funding to really get this show, I guess, the ball rolling faster, the snowball accumulating and building. From your perspective, could you just walk me through, like, why do a raise now, and why is it important for the future of the company?
Yeah, so I think the way that we're seeing things is that, until now we have been bootstrapped. We have, had funding from founders, from past enterprises, partner community, from grants, so this is our first formal raise. And what that allowed us to do is become incredibly lean. We're able to execute with very low overhead costs, which has been great and something that we want to kind of carry forwards. Now what we're seeing is the opportunity cost. We think that we can do everything we need. We can connect these fund managers with these assets. We can successfully launch Vault, but without additional funding, the timelines will be much longer. Maybe it would take us more like 2 years to reach revenue positive, break even as a company. So what we're saying is, we're quite happy to get other people involved at this stage, bring in new participants. And what that does is it allows us to compress those timelines, reach break even within, let's say, 8 months. And we see that as quite important because we do see a lot more attention, a lot more interest on alternative real world asset classes and on energy specifically. So what we're trying to do is, deepen our moat, make sure that we kind of take advantage of that first mover advantage. And, raising now allows us to do that more efficiently.
Got you. Yeah. Get ahead, get a foot, in front of everyone else and just accelerate. Makes complete sense. Chill has a question here from the chat. He goes, tens of million in interest. Is this from VCs, investors, users? Like, where is this 10 million of interest coming from? Maybe just some clarity on that would help.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically we are in talks right now. So just to go back a step, I guess, primarily the platform has been funded through retail so far. So that's always been, what we know, our niche, have been building on Solana for quite a while. And that's how we've got that kind of first $500,000 in TVL. Now what we're seeing is that to meet this asset demand, these 49 million in assets that can be funded, we're seeing the most efficient path as talking to fund managers. So family offices, institutional capital. So with that, over the last 9 months or so, we've been building out kind of deep relationships with several different fund managers. There's 5 different ones we're talking to, a mix of kind of crypto native Web3 and then off-chain fund managers as well. And each of them is looking for between a $2 and $10 million deployment. So the LOI that was mentioned has been signed with Trufin for a $5 to $10 million deployment next quarter. That's the kind of latest stage conversation, but we're in the process of getting those other conversations to that stage. And just taking advantage of that kind of larger capital pools.
Interesting. Okay, so 5 entities within the $2 to $10 million deployment range. Okay, no, really, really interesting stuff here. Next question, I guess, would be on what comes next, roadmap. Where are you guys headed? Of course, we want to grow this out, hit this raise, but in your mind, let's say you do hit it, what comes next? Excuse me. And what are you guys most excited for?
Yeah, so I think, regardless of the raise, what comes next is launching P2P markets. So until now, the investments have been totally illiquid. That's changing soon, launching P2P markets, basically finished quality assurance stages. Shortly after, launching Vault. So getting that live, getting a lot of attention kind of filtered into that. In the meantime, really strengthening the compliance, the legal frameworks. Everything we've been doing so far on both sides has been functioning incredibly well, protecting investors, giving reassurances to those investors. But as we start trying to scale into, 10, even $50 million individual tickets from investors, as we start approaching institutional capital, the wants, the needs are different, So what that means is, getting those pieces in place. So targeting a VARA license out of Dubai, for example, partnering with licensed broker dealers within the US and within EU to ensure we're kind of meeting full MiCA compliance as we scale to a larger component, let's say. And then, just increasing volume, increasing TVL, continuing to find really high quality energy assets, getting those on chain. Part of that is, geographical expansion. So I mentioned we're currently focused within Singapore, but we've been exploring for the last few months expansions into neighboring jurisdictions. So Singapore-based operators operating assets within Japan, Malaysia, New Zealand, for example, and just ensuring that we have a constant supply of high quality, high yielding assets to be funded.
So 2 questions from this. Talk to me about, number one, the interest from VCs and institutions you're seeing. What about this pitch that you're offering them makes them say, okay, this is really good. Curious to hear your feedback on that. And then also, what kind of assets do they want? Are there specific assets you're targeting? Data centers are obviously hot right now. So maybe talk me through, I guess, feedback from these VCs and institutions, and then, what kind of assets you guys are looking to fund in the future.
Yeah. So I think what we're seeing a lot of interest and demand in, why we're seeing a lot of interest from these institutional family offices, fund managers, is in getting access to real assets. So not in the crypto sense of real world assets, but actual tangible assets that produce yield regardless of market conditions. I think, Warren Buffett is holding records amount of cash. The stock market has been going absolutely crazy, but everyone knows that it's kind of days are limited. Crypto has been wildly volatile. I think most of the assets that people have been holding, even gold has been, had a lot of ups and downs over the last year, has had some massive crashes intraday. So I think what, a lot of smart capital is seeing is that they need a safe haven that continues producing yield regardless of what is going on. And I think that's something that our assets can offer. I think in terms of the specific assets, we see crazy amount of growth potential within solar alone. I think we could easily reach 500 billion plus volume on the platform just from solar assets. But what we're keeping a close eye on as a kind of adjacent vertical is battery storage. As grids electrify, as the primary energy sources come from energy sources that change within the day. So solar, obviously, a lot of energy generation in peak day. By the time it gets to night, no generation. So as that happens, what we're seeing is a massive need to build out battery storage at scale. So we have talked to a few large institutional players, family offices that have been really curious about that battery storage options. And some of the solar developers in our network have already been exploring kind of large battery storage solutions.
Awesome. Great answer. I want to talk a bit about this ETF token, the Vault token you guys kind of talk about. You're obviously raising right now. This 10% to 14% of equity will be tradable liquid on chain. But then it seems like this Vault ETF token will kind of be separate. I could see that being a bit confusing for investors. So when you guys think of having, 1, 2, 3 plus tokens attached to your name, whatever it ends up going to, how do you guys keep that from being confusing and like differentiating these tokens clearly for investors?
Yeah, so I think on the individual listings, we keep the token out of those as much as possible. They are tokenized to bring all of the benefits, but that's not something that we put any focus on for each of those individual listings. I think as time goes on, the two that you mentioned, Volt and our kind of STS token energy with Crafts, will each serve a very different role. So one will be the value accrual layer. So if you want actual access to the company, if you want to be, profiting when we rake in revenue and profits, that would be the STS token from Crafts. That would be energy. That is where the focus will go. If you are kind of curious about a specific type of yield-bearing asset, you want access to solar plants, let's say, you want to have a token that slowly appreciates reliably over time, that would be the Volt token. So one is buying in, getting 8-9% APY, let's say. The other is having that massive upside potential of the possibility of us cornering the energy markets on Solana and becoming that big player there.
Got you. Okay. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense here. The main company token, which is that STF token you keep talking about. And then the second one being that, like you said, slowly appreciating one that just continues to get distributions from all the assets you guys have under management here. Really interesting stuff.
Just to zoom in here, I think like if you look, for example, at figure markets, figure markets, they have the prime token that basically gives you like a yield. It's a yield bearing asset where yield comes from home equity line of credit, and at the same time, figure market is a public traded company with their own ticker, and they're worth like 7 billion, and they have around, I think, 2 billion in total. Like they have a T-bill token product, and they have a tokenized home equity line of credit. So they have two tokens, and they have also the stock. So I think in RefiHub's case, the STS would be more this like equity linked token layer, and then you have still this like Vault would be a Vault-like exposure. We can get access to the yield just by holding this token.
No, makes a ton of sense. Okay. We appreciate the explainer there. We are at time here, so I kind of just want to wrap up here. Avery, if there's anything you want to leave the people with, obviously the raise is live right now. If people like what they heard, they can go participate. Any closing thoughts you wanna drop on us?
Yeah, I think just generally, DMs are always open. Bullish Ave on Twitter or the Refi Hub account. Always happy to chat with people who are interested in the asset class. I think bringing a totally new asset class on chain involves a lot of education, involves a lot of understanding the real value inherent in it. But the way I see it is once you understand that value, it becomes a question of when, and it becomes a question of who. It doesn't become a question of, is this coming on chain? Is energy finance going to be a big thing? It's who's going to capitalize on that. And when is that going to happen? So yeah, that's what we're working towards. And regardless of anything, we're going to keep working towards that as best we can. So would love to have anyone in who resonates with the vision.
There we go. Avery, one last question. Crypto Jones always asks good questions here. He goes, so refi aims to be a slow kicker, but I guess the second half of the question is where I want to focus. He said, what kind of upside do you foresee? And I think obviously you can't necessarily answer some of that question for legal purposes, but I think if you do give us a bit of a grand vision here, and we talk about the size of the market, the growth of the market, where this could grow and be in the future, I guess I would want your take on that to give people a bit of hopefulness as we walk out of here today. How big could something like this get? What's the grand vision here that you could lay out on the table for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think just to answer the first part quickly, the way I kind of see things in my mind is that, there's been Refi Hub version 1, which has been everything up until this point, has been very much a slow cooker, has been putting in every single piece that's needed, the compliance, the developer relationships to make sure that we are able to scale sustainably. And then there's, Refi Hub version 2, which is everything post-raise. And that is taking these, large letter of intents we have on both the supply and demand side and connecting them quickly and just scaling every component of the business. In terms of the upside, what we're targeting is 20 mil in volume by the end of the year. And, within the next 3 to 5 years are hoping to reach over 500 million, just with the business pipeline alone, we've increased it from 35 million to 49 million just in the last 2 weeks from signing on a few new developers who we've been working with for a while. So we see a lot of potential to continue expanding that supply side. Now we just need to focus on doing everything we can on the demand side. And the way that converts is Volt, just around the corner, and converting those fund manager relationships. So for us, the kind of upside, the potential is massive. So yeah, other people do it the same way.
Quick question here, because we have Roman in the comments here, and Roman is working at Impulsor doing deep drone technology. They are doing private defense technology, expanding to the US here right now. He said in some areas of Germany, it's cheaper to put up a fence made of solar panels than made out of wood. I'm not even sure if this is a question, but more of just a statement. What does this mean? What does this tell us about energy? Is there any takeaways from this?
Absolutely. I think, I've seen that as well. It's quite a funny kind of anchor point for it. But I think the real takeaway from this is that the cost of installing solar has absolutely plummeted. As I said before, it's gone down 98%. So it's become now the cheapest source of energy. So if you want to power a light bulb for one day in almost anywhere in the world, bar the kind of top north, top south regions, solar is the cheapest energy source. And what that means is that as costs go down to install, the costs of the revenue from selling that energy is actually staying the same or increasing, because at the same time, the demand is going through the roof with AI, with AV, with robotics. So it just creates this perfect storm of costs getting cheaper and revenue, and therefore profits getting higher. So for us, that's the real value we see in the asset class.
Very good. Well, I don't want to keep our next guest waiting too long. Avery, it was a pleasure talking to you. Philip, any closing thoughts from your end, from the craft side of things?
Yeah, I hope we can make this acceleration work. After the race, that this TVL is actually going in a hockey stick chart. I think that's what we
up and to the right.
That's what we're all looking for. And yeah, have a look at the ICO page currently live. I think we have around 30% of the race committed, closing on Friday. And yeah, if you want to know more about anything that we're doing on the STS side, and what you're actually getting. Reach out to me and PFO_SSC on X, and also happy to chat. And yeah, Dom, thanks for having us.
Always
energy
a pleasure.
capital markets on Solana.
Let's go, baby. A quick question on this, and I got to move on. But we've seen a lot of these raises and recent ICOs on like MetaDAO and whatnot, and we typically see the it go like this, right? First couple days are pretty slow, and the last day you just get slammed with all sorts of volume and people investing, kind of trying to gauge this. This model's a little bit different because it is a sealed bid auction where you can't see the next person's bid. Do you expect a massive wave to come in towards the end, or it's, I guess, just this experiment and we're gonna figure it out, I guess, as the time comes?
I think we don't know. I'm excited to see. I've seen a lot of people that say that they're waiting to see, like they don't see like sometimes a benefit in like locking up too early. So we need to figure out a way for them to give an incentive to that. But at the same time, I think it's nice to see that you like, there's like people at any stage already now committing and setting their bids. And because you don't have an advantage of bidding late, I think that's also why there's like more people committing early as well.
Actually, we have Zinc coming on, who I believe raised on the Futardio platform, which is MetaDAO's decentralized. And I think for the early investors, they kind of give them a guarantee of getting allocation if it's oversubscribed, which helps, I think, balance out the latecomers and, giving you some sort of edge for being early. But interesting. We'll be monitoring. We'll be seeing. Guys, it was a pleasure. Really exciting stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Talk soon.
Thanks a lot, Tom.
All right. I'll bring my boy Chill back up. Boom. We got Seb in the waiting room coming to talk to us about Zinc. Of course, this is the Arcium day, everything Arcium related. Zinc is doing something a little different. We've seen, and we're trying to figure out a name. So maybe Seb can give us a better idea because, it's unfair to call it a Ponzi because this is not like the Ponzi's of the past. Is it MechFi? We're trying to coin a good term here. But this stuff is really interesting. Obviously, Zinc being one of the hottest new mining protocols, private proof of work mining protocol coming up here. Really exciting stuff. Again, we've seen Ord do really well. We've seen things like Bean on Base do well. Just lots of attention. I think the emergence of AI has made it to where this new sort of DeFi primitive is possible, and it wasn't maybe possible in the past. So kind of just getting the full scoop on that and seeing what's changed today that's allowed this to happen, what the specific differences in Zinc with this privacy aspect from Arcium. And we got Seb on to come talk us through it. Chill, anything before we jump straight into it here?
Let's jump right into it.
All right. My man, Seb, we appreciate you hopping on today.
Hey, pleasure. Thanks for being here. You're running a great podcast here. You've got this down pat. Well done.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I've seen your content, and it's very, very good. I love the shirt. There's that Arcium shirt I'm looking at.
This is indeed. It's got from Breakpoint. And
nice.
Seems like a fitting thing. Just come out of the wash. On it goes.
I should have said what's up to you at Breakpoint. This is the Solana shirts from Breakpoint, but I didn't snag one from Arcium, which is ironic because I went and talked to the team for a good bit of time and hung out with them at the super team party afterwards. But I did not snag a shirt, so misplay on my end.
Future collector's item potentially.
I know it, dude. I'm jealous. Your setup looks fantastic. Clearly, you're a content professional here. But Seb, do us a favor. We're trying to get into Zinc Cash, and we want to understand your relationship. This was a last minute swap, so we appreciate you coming on. Of course, there was some family stuff going on, so you came in as the hero to fill the gap, and we're excited to get all the information from you today. Could you do us a favor and start at the top and just give us a little intro on yourself and how you relate to Zinc Cash here?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it was a last minute bait and switch rather. Shift Boss was unavailable. He's been working crazy hours with the launch and fixing things and improving things. And yeah, he just needed to do some stuff with his family. So I came on, but I'm not part of the team per se, but we've been working on their branding and assets and strategy for a few months now. And that's essentially what I've been doing with Zinc. And then what have I done? Like I have a few things that I do. I've created a lot of videos, over 1,000 on Solana, actually. And a lot of tutorials. I'm more of the tutorial guy. And I got started on Solana back when Solana was around $1.50 or so. Didn't buy as much as I liked, so don't think that I nailed it. And then I worked for Phantom when they had 30,000 users, and then DJ Nape Academy, and then I've just done things with Jupiter and created Meteor content and just lots of content. I just basically do a whole lot of stuff. And I'm the co-founder of Validator.com, Solana staking validator as well. And basically what I like to do is explain complex topics so people get it. I like the idea of branding and assets so that people start to view crypto far more favorably, right? It's, every, I don't know, second person of your friends will probably think it's a bit scammy. Yeah. And yeah, that's what I do. I like to try and make cool stuff cooler, essentially.
Well, you make pretty cool stuff. I will say the content coming out of the Zinc Twitter has been phenomenal. So knowing you're behind it, you can give yourself a big pat on the back there, because it's really good stuff. Let's dive into it. You said you like to explain complex things, make them more simple. I think we do a good bit of that on this show. So that's, I think, a great place to start. What is Zinc? It's kind of the new hot thing. You know what? Even before we get into Zinc, what is this new primitive we're seeing on DeFi, where it's like we have miners coming on and they can mine certain blocks? Maybe just fill everybody in on just this whole vertical in general.
Sure. Well, I think I think you have to tip your hat to Hard Hat Chad way back in 2024. He created Ore. And like back then it was like a proof of work. It just basically made Solana unusable, properly unusable. He also said, like, he had a tweet at the time saying this could break any chain, right? There's all these people flooding Solana, and it's like, I could just, I could deploy this on Cardano, but 2 transactions per hour, like, no one's going to use it.
Right.
Then they paused it, and he went away, and he built for quite some time. Then it came back as a slightly different model. And that was, had a lot of success. I covered that last year as well. And then ShiftBoss actually had like a similar idea and a patent pending on this actually before Ore came out. And then but one of the bigger issues was the fact that there was no privacy. I guess we'll pivot into that in a second. But essentially, like, to break it down, proof of work is something a lot of people don't understand, especially not on Solana. But essentially, like in Bitcoin, you are spending the electricity in order to actually get a token. And in this way, a token has been minted from a contract, but you're spending the SOL in order to get that. So there's always like a cost to actually get that. So that's kind of where it's like a little bit of a proof of work mechanism. It's not officially or really completely a proof of work, but it does have that underlying mechanism. And I guess having the buyback thing built into it, and some really cool gamification allows, not something to go up in price, but to have something ideally do, gain attention and have what's the right wording here? Like, basically, you don't just have an allocation to a team where a team can dump it, or VCs that can dump it. Our favorite projects everywhere in the world that are great projects have like terrible tokenomics, and things that are built like this don't really have that. But it adds a massive amount of gamification. It adds the ability to have conviction and to earn in other ways by like not pulling out your Zinc once you've actually mined it, or staking your Zinc for rewards. So it's got all these different mechanisms like this. But in terms of like the explosion in the space, I wasn't aware of beans until like a couple of days ago.
Gotcha.
And this has been worked on for like months and months and months. So it wasn't like
fly by
last
night.
week. Yeah, last week. Okay, let's fire up Codex. Off we go. No, like, this has been intensely worked on for a long time. I think even the branding was done. The initial branding was worked on December or January. It was a while ago.
Yeah. So I guess that begs the question then, why does something like Zinc need to exist? I guess Ore being a bit of inspiration here. Why does something like Zinc need to exist? And then what's that differentiating factor with Zinc compared to others like Ore, maybe like Bean, like the other ones on that list?
Sure. Well, I can't speak on Bean because I've heard of it, but I haven't looked into it, just been too busy. So my bad there. Or I'm deeply familiar with it. And Hard Hat Chad is a GigaBrain engineer. And there are some aspects that are that are in Zinc. But there is an issue, and I don't want to, I love ore, so I'm not trying to say anything bad here, but when it comes to like things like ore, when there's no privacy element to it, then it all becomes essentially just good developers can have arbitrage, EV plus EV strategies. So you don't really take the gamification kind of ends, and yeah, when everything's open and completely transparent, that's when you have it's no longer that fun actually. And I'll use another example so that nobody thinks that I'm picking on ore, because I'm not picking on ore. Ore has some cool stuff for sure. But like we all know, well, I hope we all know, like the amount of MEV that happened on Solana before the run up to around $290, where at one stage operating a validator myself, people would offer $1 million a month in order to run custom software, which of course we would never ever do and never did. And that's just the nature of the way that people can work when they just have good developing skills and they can front run. But you can't do that. There is no plus EV when it comes to privacy. So I kind of feel, and this is ShiftBoss's vision here, it was only worth doing if privacy existed. And Arcium, they've been building privacy for years, but they've been in the development stage. They've only just come on to mainnet alpha, and now they're just they have their TGS soon, and they have their mainnet. I guess maybe they cross over from mainnet alpha to mainnet, but it's only just now been possible. So before that, it wasn't fun, because I don't think it wasn't as fun, like nowhere near as fun, because you could just be outsmarted by someone that's either really good as a coder or really good on Codex or Claude Code. So the private element is what makes it fun, which is what all the gamification happens in the real world, like computer games and whatnot. The issue being you can't trust what happens in the real world, right? Whereas with this, you can provably trust that it's fair and true with the way that Arcium operates.
Interesting. So talk to me about this. What is, and we're trying to coin this term. Someone in the chat said the flywheel. Flywheel is not the right term for this. Is it a Ponzi? Is it mechanism finance? Is what people are saying. Is there a term that you guys have coined at Zinc to kind of like put this in perspective? We got like the ICM term's nice, but I think this needs its own specific term. Have you guys thought about that?
Yeah, I haven't. We haven't.
Because I feel like people want to jump to calling it a Ponzi. And it's like that's unfair to categorize it, I guess, in that vein, right?
Yeah, no, of course not. I mean, yeah, I think it certainly is. Like the thing about blockchains and crypto, like I guess crypto attracts all sorts. It definitely attracts all sorts. I would not say the majority would be like on the right hand of the bell curve when it comes to IQ. It's a small amount of the world's population, but all on crypto Twitter just think, sharing their viewpoints, and they're welcome to do it. Go for it. Viewpoints are what they are. I guess mechanism finance would be like the more similar thing, but I think something else will come out of this, because like, I don't know, mech prive fi. I haven't given it any thought. Like,
we're just roll off the tongue too.
Yeah, it does. It does indeed. Hey, I did want to just quickly do a correction before I forget. I'm not running the Twitter account. Mango and Chris are over the Twitter, but like I'm trying to working on strategy and
got you
the tweets and stuff. I just wanted to shout out to Mango, who's more of our BD man, and Chris, who's one from my team.
You guys have a pretty stacked squad over there, though. I mean, yourself, Mango, the team you says OGs goes way back, so you guys are doing it right.
Yeah, we've got some very good creative talent behind the background as well, and I've worked on some stuff that you're going to ask me about, and I'll see what I can tell you. But like, I have high hopes. Internally I'm euphoric. I've been in crypto long enough to not be I try to be humble. I am going to remain humble, but like there's a lot of growth to happen, I believe. But yeah, like I'm not going to get involved with something unless I think it can be massive, to be honest.
Okay, well let's jump into the mechanisms behind this. The goal with this show is to, by the end of it, have you divulge all the secrets of zinc, and everyone's now in in the know, and you've got nothing left to give. That's always the goal of MCG. But do me a favor here, and I guess at a high level, what is zinc, and what is the mechanism that you guys have enabled here?
Sure. Well, firstly, it's always good to have goals, right? So I like that. So what is zinc? So zinc is a proof of work mining protocol on Solana that uses Arcium to keep things private so that you cannot work out what other people are doing. You can't copy trade people. You can't do anything. And then it has a mechanism where every time you put in your soul, essentially 90% of it comes back. So if you put in 1 soul, then 0.9 will come back to you. And then 10% is used in different fees. And if you hop into the about section, is probably like the best place to see that. And under mining costs would be the best thing if you wanted to, well, you've got something else on the screen. But so 70% is used for buybacks, and that goes into a buyback wallet, and that gets deployed. And that's currently like decent amount in there. And that buybacks, and then from there, there's a percentage that goes to staking rewards and a percentage that just gets burnt. So just out of supply. And then you have stockpile. Stockpile is it's been a weekly draw, I guess you could say, a weekly event. I'll say a weekly event. It's currently paused just while some improvements get made to it, and this is where zinc and Sol go to. It went and hit its time to pop today, and it was over $140,000 worth of Sol and zinc inside there. Yeah. And then there's also the Bonanza. And I think the Bonanza is one of the coolest things. It's right now, it is sitting at, and I'm not trying to inject a euphoria in here, I'm just letting you know what it is. It's at 12,306 zinc. And that's currently, with the market price, what it is, that's 204,000. And every miner, once it hits, and that has a 1 in 692 chance of landing or of, going off. And when that goes off, then everybody that's mined that correct tile, they take a share of that, which is pro rata. If you put in 1 soul versus someone that puts in 0.1 soul, then, someone gets 10 and the other person gets someone gets, 10 times the amount as the other person gets 1. And that has been going for, let me see when the last one was. The thing is, there's a lot of things to slowly get out and make people understand. But the last time the Bonanza was hit was 766, round 766, and the round is currently 2,532. So statistics work how statistics work. You could have a stockpile go 1 round, skip 2 rounds, and then go again. But you can also have it so that it just doesn't hit the nature of random number generators. Should I have a look at your screen and go through the slides that you have? Would that be helpful?
Slides. I have a video up right now, kind of just explaining it. I think I'm still trying to get the explainer here for everyone so they fully understand this. So, let's say I wanted to go in and use this protocol. How would that work? What are the steps for me? On the website, it's got the step-by-step here, but could you walk me through what that looks like?
Of course. So you'd click on mine, you'd connect your wallet, you'd go and click on mine.
Oh, okay. You can just go through. I probably won't do it here and connect.
Perfect. You'd click on mine, and you've got manual and auto. Manual is you go and just put it manually, but auto is what most people use. It's an auto mining feature, and you go and select your tiles, and there's 30 tiles, and you can go evens or odds or all, or you can just go and select your random lucky numbers just by clicking on whatever ones you want. And then you put in the amount of soul that you want to deploy for the entire round, and it divides it up on the number of tiles that you put in. And then you enter the number of rounds. You can select auto reload, and then that transaction goes, and then your transaction is there with everybody else's all filtered through Arcium, so no one knows what you've done, and no one knows how many are on each tile. And then after the round closes, then Arcium does its cool technical stuff in the background, and it comes out with a winning tile, or a tile that was hit.
Mhm.
And then that's one round. And then you'll get some zinc if you won. And then there will also be, some soul that goes back. And if you've got auto mine and auto reload, it just goes back and keeps on being recycled. Otherwise, you can claim it and pull it out of the protocol. So that's the first part. Is there something that I should simplify even further than that?
No, I think that makes sense. So would you call this gambling, or is this plus expected value if you play it enough? Like, how does the math work out for people? Is this targeting humans or agents? There's just a few questions I have, I guess, from that explanation that I would want to clarify.
Sure. So I'm not going to call it gambling. I would say things would probably get in, and you'd have to run the math yourself. I'm not giving any financial advice, but the higher a bonanza goes, the more likely something would be to pop. And if you've got a couple of ways to make it potentially plus EV. One way is when the bonanza goes high, you go in during those times, because when the bonanza hits, then all the zinc goes out to everyone that hits the tiles. So during that time, you're probably more likely to go with, say, all blocks. Before that, you may be wanting to run a strategy that this will involve agents. I don't know really if there's any agents using it right now. There is an auto miner available created by someone in the community, Amir. But the actual, there is I guess people can develop their own strategies, but because you can't see anybody else's tile selections, there's no way to for it to be guaranteed as a plus EV. It's not like traditional blockchain gamification mechanisms. So I can't explain it like that. To go back in time, SBF and FTX many years ago, before they did a whole lot of crime season, they just used to buy Bitcoin at one exchange at a lower price and sell at another exchange at a higher price, because the spread was so thick. That's a typical type of MEV, and not really MEV, they're just more arbitrage. And you can have that happen on all these systems as well, where play it long enough, it becomes plus EV. Whereas this, you can't see it like that. But I would say it'd be more plus EV to go and deploy when the bonanza is high.
Interesting. Do you have a specific strategy you like to run on this?
No, look, I mean, I'm up till late and starting early, just working on what's gonna make this really get a lot more virality. And so I haven't had time to work out any strategies, to be perfectly honest. I've just been deploying to every tile and hoping for that bonanza to hit.
What gets you to that viral moment?
Yeah, good question. Not entirely sure what gets there. I mean, I know how you could get there. You could go out and have agreements with KOLs and they could mention it. But then the problem with that is you're going to go and have a look at many tokens out there. They go crazy parabolic, liquidity's thin, and then they dip down 90%. And personal preference is, my own viewpoint, nothing connected to anybody else. I wouldn't love to see that, right? Because it hurts a lot of people in the community. But I think things start to go a bit more viral, at least in the crypto sense, when you've got it coming out on multiple channels, people understand it, people can make it funny, they can make their own assets based on your assets. And the other cool thing is there is a built-in affiliate system. So every time you refer one person from your community, you get 1% of the SOL that they deploy. And when you've got that, I think when more people understand that, I think that makes it far cooler. And then I guess, there's aspects of everything. You've got, maybe there's some elements of Murad Mehmedov's viewpoints about forming a cult that can come in there. And then just, people being there for quite a while, and then good memes start to come out, and the IP starts to play out further and further. But I mean, I guess I have a question. Chill, who would you say, like, what do you think has gone like really, really viral and stayed viral in crypto?
Yeah, I guess that's the thing, right? I mean, there's been so many, whether it's projects, narratives, even ecosystems that have these sort of start and stop waves where something just maybe the ecosystem is going viral or a project is going viral, and then it just kind of falls off of a cliff, right? So I feel like it's not really about the virality in the moment, but it's more so building a reputation over a long period of building, and then eventually the narrative will kind of like favor what you're building, and you'll attract the attention that you want. I think a lot of people perhaps might stumble when they chase that viral moment in the short term and ignore all of the other things that need to be done. It doesn't sound like that's what you guys are doing, thankfully. But I think it's all about building a community, and you get a community excited when they see you building, when you're constantly coming out with updates, you're keeping them in the loop. And then eventually, you garner enough community to then they'll be the ones to evangelize for you, right? And that kind of builds like that stair step momentum toward virality.
It almost feels like it kind of goes back to that age-old conversation, right? Time in the market or timing the market. And frankly, you can't really time this market. There's ebbs and flows, right? Some things are viral, some trends are viral, some narratives are viral at certain points in times. But time in the market is always going to, stand that test of time, right? Ironically, I think when I see Zinc, the biggest thing that jumps out to me is the numbers. Like, you go and you have this guy's wallet right here, Soulja Boy, with $97,000 in it because he won, right? And the 400% APY, like these jump out at you very quickly. And that will be something that gets a lot of people, or it'll be enough to get a lot of people just like, what's going on here? I have to have a look into it. And of course, that's where you guys come in a big way, where it's like, here's all the content, here's how it works, easily explained to you guys. And by the way, we've been doing this for a while. Like, we've had that time in the market. We're not a fly by night situation. So to add on to Chill's point, I think that's the play there.
Yeah, I agree. I would say there's things I have in my mind that I've acquired over many years, and I don't really want to give them away. But you want some things. One thing is, I would say, like, it's very rare for like the founder to be so responsive. And you can go to the Telegram yourself and just see how many messages from ShiftBoss. It's like there's a level, like, you need to have a level of obsession. Like, if the core people are obsessed, right? Properly obsessed, and they want it to be freaking massive. They want it to be massive. They want it to be fun. They want it to make a difference. And I think that's the element. And the other thing is the virality. Yeah, I really don't like the idea of overnight virality, because there's not enough liquidity. There's just something pumps and your early guys exit and they're like, all right, it's been fun, see ya. I think it's more like something strong, organic, and you just keep on iterating and iterating. You try some things are going to work and other things aren't. But it's more about, like, you properly try, and you make people captivated by the content, and you also make things so that people understand. And every time someone doesn't understand, you take it on board. And the other thing is, we take this for granted, but like, we speak English, and much of the world they don't, and they have to translate into. So the next thing is like not having them translate into.
The new Twitter feature has been really nice. Even when I see Chinese traders post theses or whatever, the auto translate on Twitter has been really valuable for me, at least personally. Not sure if you've seen that at all.
Yeah, I've used it before, but there's also like cultural differences as well, right? So I think, and I think the biggest thing that people make as a mistake, groups and founders and whatnot, is, and I have done a lot of content, and that is, people don't like feedback. Like, give me the feedback. I'm not going to go and enact every bit of feedback, but give it to me. I'll log it.
Right.
You know, if something comes up 20 times, like that's triage. And I learned that when I was working with Phantom, like 30,000 users, 6 months later, there was a 1.5 million. If we had and I did all the support initially, and if there was someone that came along and they requested a feature, it went to back then there's no AI, went into a spreadsheet, and just more and more people, it just Roman numeral next to it. 20, someone's requesting 20 times, or 20 people are requesting for something versus a problem that's, one person, then of course you can triage. And I don't think there's a lot of communities around there that do that. But I think the other thing that's really important for people to understand is there is no team allocation. There is no VC allocation with Zinc, right? There was a liquidity pool which was locked, which was seeded, a small pre-mine, went all into that. And then the only way to get it is to go and mine it or buy it. But, there is, and I think that, and the fact that the buyback wallet has, I think, over $200,000 worth of SOL. Yeah, $206,000 worth of SOL. SOL's dipping quite heavily right now. It was 83 yesterday and 72 today, unfortunately. Then, plus there's already been 8,000, there's already been $611,000 or $611.7 thousand worth of SOL already deployed to buy back, some for staking rewards, other burnt. And I think as long as that can be explained better in a way that engages and keeps people in the know of what's going on, they'll get it. And then, yeehaw. Yeah,
can we talk about this? You said there's no team and VC allocation. Let's talk about the Zinc token, right? That's a big part of this entire story that we're telling here. Where does the Zinc token come into play? How does that work? I mean, look at this. We've spent 5,900 Solana, roughly $470,000 on buybacks so far, currently running at 100 SOL per hour. Could you talk to me about where the Zinc token kind of comes into play in this whole system, and what the value is there?
Well, I mean, so the Zinc token is the token you mine, right, on the platform. Right. And it's like, I guess the closest thing to kind of compare it to is it's kind of like Bitcoin, because people understand Bitcoin. There's a hard cap. So you'll see that in the history or in other parts of the world, there's a cap supply. It won't go higher than that. And the contract will emit a certain amount of Zinc. And the earlier someone plays, the more that comes out. As time goes on, less and less comes out, similar to like the mechanics of Bitcoin. The difference that Bitcoin has is, the supply, a lot of the supply of Bitcoin has been lost, of course, but with this, because you have to mine it, the mining cost, it buys back and it burns that Zinc. Now, Zinc doesn't have a utility per se, or other than, you can stake it to earn more Zinc and whatnot. But there's no extra gamification, at least not yet, with Zinc. But it's just essentially it's a fair launch proof of work token, which allows people to be part of a community where they could potentially have an FA, like upside in a project where someone's not going to come and have a team vesting allocation that just goes and deployed on a sell orders on an exchange somewhere.
Right. So with this as well, I mean, you talk about the buybacks and burns, and again, I'll pop that up on the screen here. Very impressive. With these protocols that have these emissions, we want to figure out if this is deflationary or inflationary by nature. And so if the buybacks and burns are actually outpacing emissions, well, technically it's actually deflationary, despite having an inflation element to it. Are you seeing that this protocol has been deflationary so far, or are we still seeing inflation at some regard?
So we're still working on our Dune analytics dashboard.
Oh, that'll be great.
So like at times it has been deflationary. I'm not sure what it is right now as well. And there's but yeah, like right now, because of the buyback vault, like one of the reasons why that buyback vault is quite sizable, and some people will go and FUD it, and I mean they could just ask questions, but hey, that's too easy. Is a banana, like you want the protocol can ramp up or reduce the amount of buybacks at the time, but it's still a buyback wallet. So it can, and it's important to note, sorry, I just got some notes that I have to make sure I don't miss. The buyback is, I don't know if it's been mentioned, but like when the buyback happens, some of the buyback goes to like staking rewards, and the other is like, it's burned, right? It's not like saved in a rainy day and it can be loaned to market makers or anything.
Right.
It is, you can check the transaction. It is burned. You go, if you go back to your history page, you probably won't be able to see it without connecting a wallet, but if you had a wallet connected, you don't even have to play. But if you did, and you clicked on buybacks and burns, then 10% is going to the staking rewards, 90% burned forever. And you click on a link and it shows, oh, you do see it. Fantastic. You can see that the zinc, the buyback amount is happening. There's a, like on this occasion, every couple of minutes or so, gets bought. Some zinc is purchased. A certain amount goes to the staking rewards. And you can see that down below, right? Where your mouse move there. And that's all burnt. So that 8.90 or 8.819 zinc, that's gone from the supply. From the supply. So immediately it's gone from the supply. The other cool thing about this is there's another component to it. It's called the wildcat. And I know there's a lot to digest here, and hey, that's why we can make some explainer content as well. But the wildcat is another mechanism where 1 in 4 times you can, when you're mining, there will be a far larger allocation go to one particular miner of the zinc of that round. And that you influence that by having a little bit more soul in the round, and also by keeping a streak, because there's a couple of other mechanisms, but by keeping a streak, so not missing a streak, and that allows your bricks to accumulate, and then it weights you to potentially be the wildcat winner at a higher rate. So other protocols have something a little bit different, but this is 1 in 4 seems to be a good spot that works, and it means that sometimes like you could get lucky and bam, you deploy something tiny, and then you walk away with like 17 soul, 17 zinc or so.
But before we talk about this question Crypto Jones has, I want to talk about the staking, right? 400% APR on staking currently is very impressive. Josh had a question before the show. He obviously couldn't make it today, but he asked, 400% APR for stakers, why should someone stake over playing the grid, or vice versa? Why should someone play the grid over staking when the number's so high?
Right. Well, you've got there's multiple mechanisms here. The first thing is, if you just wanted to go and buy and just put it in the staking, you think, hey, I think these guys can execute. I think this will go up in value. I would like the APR. Of course, it's likely that the APR would drop over time, right? The nature of everything. But right now, it's very, very high. And there isn't that much actually staked, right? But as it increases, of course, it's more and more. So I guess you can do it like that. If you go and deploy it on the grid, then you've got the gamification aspect. So if you're staking, you're not getting any chance to win the bonanza. And if you're staking, you're not getting the chance to win the wildcat. And the other thing is, when you go and play the grid, the circle, whatever we're calling it here, when you mine zinc and it goes to what's called unsmelted zinc, and when you actually claim that, 10% of that gets distributed to everybody that still has unsmelted zinc. And you can see it if you connect your wallet, which you have it on and that's fine. And then that smelted zinc, you actually end up accumulating smelted zinc as well. So even just by holding zinc and not claiming it, you're also earning an APR as well. It's just it's like a 2-part APR. Like, for example, I'm looking at one of mine right now, and there is some unsmelted zinc hasn't been claimed in some time. But if I went and claimed that, then if that's 50, it's going to drop to 45. But then at the same time, there's some smelted zinc, which is 3, and it kind of offsets it. And there's also the other aspect of someone can go and, excuse me, it's the old taco ad. Why not both?
Yeah, you could, right? Hedge.
Yeah, well, it's just, you mine and then you go and stake it. And yeah, it's just a gamification, right?
Sure.
I think the majority of people in crypto just want to have fun.
Yeah, no, valid. We have a good question here, and again, you're familiar with both Ore and of course Think Deeply here. But Soldier Boy, who congratulations being a winner of one of the stockpiles there, about how long is the minting curve designed to keep the game running for with buybacks/burns? I think I saw Ore's live for 40 years. I'm not entirely sure about this question, so maybe you can answer it better.
I'm not either,
Okay.
to be honest. But look, I'm going to screenshot it, and then I will. Tomorrow we'll have something.
Tap into the community, guys.
We'll be able to get the answer for that. I mean, I could pause what I'm doing. I won't. But I could pause what I'm doing, go and run the economics through and work out how long it's going to go. The bigger thing is it's not it's depending on volume as well. Like you can see it under zinc economics, and like what I'd have to do is come up and say, well, at this rate of soul deployed or whatever, it would happen for this amount of time.
Yeah.
But it's a good question and one that I can look into.
Okay.
I'll make sure that he knows the answer as soon as I know the answer.
Sweet. Love it. Crypto Jones has another question. What keeps Zinc relevant in a year? Is there any plans to give it utility in the future? I guess outside of maybe just like the earning potential and having it be the network token. Anything to touch on there?
I think what keeps it relevant, I mean, it's tough for most teams. I think it just comes down to iteration, obsession, content, and listening to your community. I know I said that before, but how many times does a community actually listen to you? Right. I'm a bigger voice in the YouTube space, and I've given feedback before on really good ideas, having been around for some time, and it falls on deaf ears. I think that's the differentiating factor, to be perfectly honest. And it looks like my camera was just overheated.
Oh geez.
Apologies. 1 second. Let me just check this.
No worries. Chill. How are you? What's the thoughts, feelings?
Still trying to put it together a little bit as far as just the flow, right? Like the user flow going through. I think you go in, you mine, and you take advantage of the high APRs. But yeah, just still. I think there's still the flow that I'm still trying to really nail down.
Wrap your head around. Got you.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that exactly? What exactly should I be trying to?
Like the user flow. So they come in. You can either stake your tokens for the APY, or you can what was it? There's a you can
mine it.
Mine it. There you go. So I couldn't pull the word out of my head. So you can either stake or mine, and I guess on a long-term perspective, right? I think Crypto Jones's question really was the part that I was thinking more a little bit about, just kind of long-term. What does the community kind of do with this? Is this just something that they kind of is this something that has legs of its own, or is there utility behind this that could kind of drive more activity, or onboard more users? What's the goal there?
How's it grow and expand?
Right.
Sure. So, this next part is you're just gonna have to take it as a viewpoint I have, okay? And I don't want anyone to, go and do anything silly with all their life savings or whatever. But the actual mechanism is built to give to give this a buyback volume, and buyback volume would, generally mean price goes up. The thing that I have in my mind is, as long as people don't go euphoric and then just push it up and have it, retrace, then you do have that mechanism. The other thing is, sorry, I was looking at the wrong camera. The fact that you have a referral system means that if you have a community and you like this and you think, oh, well, this is fun, right? Like, this is fun. Like, and that's what the majority of fun, like that's what the majority of stuff that's happened on crypto is all about. It's about speculation, right? It's about this price will go up, or in the case of perps, this price will go down, right? The majority of it is based on this. And the previous guests with Crafts and their ICO platform, of course, they're going for real world assets in a sense, and this is exceptionally cool. Like, there's some bureaucracy to kind of navigate past, but like what makes this, what is probably the flow? Probably, I'd say for most people, the flow would be having someone trust in their community that covers it, is interested in it, explains that you could potentially win a portion of the bonanza, earn some bricks, use some of that zinc, put it into the stockpile, could walk away like with Soldier Boy, and do well, hit a golden vein in the mining world. And then I think that's actually enough. That's actually enough for people that at this stage, this is enough. Now, like, we can get onto the roadmap and future plans after, but because the supply does go down with buybacks, you can see a mechanism that could, as conviction increases, things start to get more fun, and there could be some sudden appreciation, which is opinion, NFA. Just, you have to understand it, and you can go and throw it all into Claude, the docs, and work it out. But that's how it kind of works. And then from there, like to keep people interested, you don't just have a protocol that you just automate, you check on it once a week. You make it relevant, right? You make it relevant with your content, with your branding. People like to be entertained. We have to entertain people, and that's more so the goal. And the other thing is catering to, you have different audiences. Some audiences are far more technical, so go nerd snipe them. Other ones, they just want to have fun and they want some memes. And then, empower the community to make cool stuff happen is kind of how I see things. Did I answer everything there, or if I missed something, let me know.
No, I think you answered everything pretty well. You touched on kind of like roadmap, next steps. Maybe walk us through anything that you or the team is excited about, that you guys are building out, or that you guys have coming for the community.
Sure. Well, I think the next thing for ShiftBoss to work on, like the first goal is, well, one of the first goals is to get the round time down to 30 seconds, which was always the plan. But just to keep it stable, it's currently higher. So get it down to a 30-second round. And then the other thing is to get stockpile so it's improved in terms of how it works, because like, it needs to be improved. It needs some work there. So that will take a little bit of work, and making sure that people can use the bricks. They want to use the bricks. And then in terms of roadmap, look, it really is like content, seeing what people are wanting, having the assets that they want to play with, and then a badge system, rolling out a badge system. So you collect badges. What will those badges be used for? You'll have to wait and see.
Got it. Sounds good. Look, this has been a fascinating conversation, Seb. You guys have built, I haven't seen like private proof of work mining before. I think it's a very interesting sort of overlap between two, it's privacy and DeFi. Two very interesting narratives. So I think you guys are doing something interesting here. And as you guys, I know you mentioned like the badges, and you guys have some other things coming content wise. You know, as the community grows, as you guys grow the project, we definitely love to have you guys back on. You know, if there's any big milestones that you guys hit, any other big announcements that you guys have, we'd love to have you back. But man, we do appreciate this conversation, and thanks so much for stepping in last minute here. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you. You guys did a great session. And yeah, Shift Boss would, of course, be keen to come in. We'll get everything up to like scratch, keep the community happy with like the progress. And then when we've got the next stage of the roadmap kind of rolled out, and you can see that like we are in fact executing, then yeah, welcome us back for sure.
Let's do it. Love
awesome.
it.
Appreciate your time, Seb. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Exciting
Thanks.
times. Peace. All right, there it is, boys. That was the Arcium day. We had Arcium come on. You know, Yannick kick us off. A great episode there, of course, and then we followed that with Crafts and Refi, this raise that's powered by Arcium, and then of course just recently Zinc. It's an interesting concept. Again, with Beans doing this, there's like cards, I think or there's not cards, Collector Crypt. There's another one that's happening in the same like, kind of round packs for Collector Crypts. There's of course Or doing this stuff. We're seeing an emergence of this type of mechanism. So I'm trying to coin a term for it, trying to get a better understanding of like who does what differently, what gives you an edge in terms of like what you want to buy and whatnot. So
I'd love to get the dev back on, the actual like dev of Sync. I know that was like he was a part of the. I know Seb was a part of the team, but I think sometimes like the dev, they have like a much like a broader vision for a project, or they have like a sort of perspective. Baby. Yeah, that's their baby, so they'll know kind of a little bit more about like why they created it, what was their angle, what are they looking to accomplish, what was the. I think there's more. In other words, I think there's more to dig into when it comes to Zinc. So I'd love to have them back on the show.
Yeah. Well, next Wednesday, I believe it is, we have an episode completely dedicated to this style of stuff. We have Ore coming on, we'll have Beans coming on, and like I said, maybe we'll get that. It's not cards. You meant packs. Maybe we'll get packs on that day as well. We're in conversations with them, so. Yeah, it'll be an interesting day. If you guys want a better, more rounded vision and view on what that looks like in the emergence of this new DeFi mechanism narrative, you'll be able to.
And maybe we ask all those founders next week, like why'd you make it? Why was this the route? Why was this the project to make? What pushed them to do it? Was it just them? I mean, maybe everyone has their own story, but maybe there's some sort of overlap where there's something that they're seeing. Whether that could be possible with DeFi, could be possible with, AI, or what have you. So yeah, interested to see what they say next week. Let's see here. What else we got? I know that there is some breaking news stuff that I wanted to touch on. Nothing pressing. I got a few things I can cover, but you let me know. You let me know what direction you want to go.
Rip into it, man. I think we're good with interviews today. We can just kind of chat with everyone that's in here, and whatever you guys want us to look into, we can do and hang out for a little bit, but nothing pressing. Markets are just meh.
Yeah, markets are kind of meh today. Like not much action going on. I'd like to make a bold call here, actually. We see this happening. Tom Lee and Michael Saylor both down, in the just under 10 billion in terms of their position. And I'm looking at the price action, man. And I'm seeing a few things that are a little bit concerning. Let me show you guys something real quick. Crypto Jones says the Zinc mechanism feels like a new iteration on staking and could be adopted by many protocols. Yes, I think there is a broader vision here, Crypto Jones. I think there is, but like, I think we need to have the dev on to kind of give us a nice explanation of what he saw, where's the opportunity for him.
Michael Seller, yeah, dude, right?
Michael Seller, the guy, and I think that's that's something I tweeted about just earlier today. Like you have Michael Saylor selling. I mean, it doesn't seem to be affecting the market as badly as we thought it would. But at the end of the day, now all these people that bought because Michael Saylor bought, now they're selling because Michael Saylor is selling, right? It's borrowed conviction. All these, all this institutional money that perhaps followed Michael Saylor, into a Bitcoin position, they now have to kind of rethink, like, okay, if he's selling, what am I doing? Is he going to sell more? Is he going to blow up? And that kind of gives fuel to the fire of Michael Saylor blowing up and all that good stuff.
What Josh mentioned the other day with this Michael Saylor sell, it was more for like regulatory purposes to prove that these assets are liquid and can be sold. 35 Bitcoin, I guess in the grand scheme of things, is a drop in the bucket, right? But
yeah,
so I'm not sure if the selling was like something they had to do to prove the liquidity of these assets, the underlying assets, or what exactly it was. Again, Josh would be able to explain that better than myself. That's just what I heard from him. But yeah, I don't think this was any sort of sell like, hey, we gotta start paying back investors and start to sell. I think this was more of like to prove that it was a liquid market and that they could liquidate whenever they needed to, which ironically proved to be kind of untrue, because as soon as he sold, Bitcoin nuked like 7% from the point he sold. So it clearly has some impact on the market, but whatever. So that's what I heard.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
I think a lot of people, I think Saylor had a legit reason to sell. I don't think for the record, I don't think Saylor's going to blow up. I don't think, I think he's going to be just fine, despite any volatility that Bitcoin might have. But what I am concerned with is just the fact that people don't see the reason why Michael Saylor is selling. They just see the headline that says Michael Saylor sold Bitcoin. And, they see the memes of never sell Bitcoin, never sell your Bitcoin, but now he's selling, right? So it's just like this change in narrative, I feel. But here's the other thing, that selling contributed to, fear and greed, the fear and greed index falling to 11, extreme fear, right? Watch Your Guru came out with that news just earlier this morning. But one thing that I'd like to point out is the fact that fear and greed on Bitcoin, as you can see here, is back below 20, right? And when we think below 20, really this is more closer to 10 on the fear and greed. As we saw today, it was 11. That's same level as April 2022, right? Or not April. I'm sorry. Like May, June 2022, which was peak bear market lows. Same thing in 2020, back in March 2020. That was fear and greed was at a similar level. So we see fear and greed like hitting these historical lows, not seen since COVID and a previous bear market. But we have all these things like all these alts, ZEC, Near, WorldCoin, Hyperliquid, and all these others ripping. I think this is where my question is this where alts fully decouple? And here's my answer to that. I'm looking at the charts and I'm seeing a few things that concern me. All right, first off, ZEC. I showed you guys earlier the ZEC Head and Shoulders. Rough, right? Like I'm hoping that this doesn't play out again. Like I would love to see alts continue to outperform, but we see ZEC forming the Head and Shoulders. Near protocol wicked above the range highs, looking like it'll be an SFP on the daily. On the 2-day, we can see that we get a close in like 5 hours. So I'm going to monitor that to see how that plays out. I'm also looking at Render. On the 8-hour, Render had an SFP form as well that it's pulling back from. I think Ondo was looking fine. There's a few others that were looking fine. WorldCoin as well was looking fine. But I'm seeing after these massive runs, like I'm trying to understand, is this the decision point with altcoins? Are they going to continue to outperform, or are they going to get pulled down by the fear and greed? Are they going to get pulled down by Bitcoin's price action? So I think this is like this is going to be like a very key decision point here in the market, especially now coming off of June, coming off of the sell and may go away narrative, right? So I'm interested to see how these next few days and weeks play out. But outside of that, guys, we had a few things on chain that I'd like to cover as well with you guys. Just some quick alpha, because there's a few things that I'm looking at, a few things that are popping up that look absolutely freaking massive. You guys might have seen my post earlier. I talked about this rat speak protocol. This was on base. So let me show you the post here. So this is the post. And basically I said that RatSpeak is an open source private mesh communication network that allows fully offline communication. So I don't know if you guys remember Zera, right? Remember the Zera protocol where they were able to like transfer money offline? Like this is that, except it's just fully, I think with RatSpeak, this is just full communication. It's not just transfer of money, it's transfer of messages, files, PDFs, like anything that can be stored digitally can then be, it can kind of use this communication mesh network to then travel over Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, low LORA radio, normal internet. It'll just hop from device to device until it reaches its final destination. And apparently the dev is ex-Aave and ex-Kyber network. So it seems like a pretty interesting protocol. It's one of the most interesting ones that I've seen on ETH. It's also in that, privacy narrative that we know has been attracting a lot of attention. So it's one to keep your eye on. And this is basically the chart. I mean, it's basically what the chart looks like here. I don't think I need to show the live chart. My rig is I don't know, it's just kind of messing up when it comes to deck screener today. So I'll just show you guys this chart there. But that's basically the lowdown. And if you guys need a little bit more info on RatSpeak, there was a nice write-up where basically same thing, private messages that can be sent over, over devices, doesn't need a central server, phone, doesn't need internet or anything like that. But here's just like some more information. No accounts, no phone numbers, fully encrypted messages that can be stored and delivered later. It said it works for chats, groups, files, even voice calls. It runs on phones, laptops, cheap pocket devices. And, living in a world where WhatsApp, and these other things, they need, companies, they need internet, they need these centralized aspects or these centralized entities to kind of keep these things up and running. Whereas RatSpeak works offline, it gives users the full control, and obviously they have full privacy with that as well. So a very, very interesting. And, they had this article on RatSpeak, RatSpeak.org that really went into the technology and everything. There was even I think crypto PopSci. Yes. PopSci, Popovich, he did a really nice, that's crazy. That's crazy. RatSpeak will be extremely popular with the Clintons and Podestas of the world. That is true. That is true. You know what else is interesting to Crypto Jones? I'm also kind of thinking like, what if AI agents also use this, right, to communicate with each other? What if it's something that could be integrated into certain agentic protocols for privacy? But yeah, PopSci here, he kind of mentioned some of the same things that I just talked about. But one thing that was different was this one. He said RatSpeak is to digital communications as Ethereum is to digital finance, right? As we know, DeFi, was birthed from Ethereum, right? It first became a thing on Ethereum, and obviously that created this new, or not just one new, but several new primitives as well. And so I think this could turn into something pretty big. The homie PX_721 shout out him. You guys should give him a follow. He's a great follow. But he says communication remains one of the internet's most platform dependent primitives. Bitcoin's made money sovereign. Everyone is focused on making intelligence sovereign, but almost nobody is thinking about making communication sovereign. Privacy protects communication. Sovereign protects the ability to communicate. And rat speak is interesting for that reason. He even talks about this. He says communication without relying on a platform, account, company, phone number, network feels like a useful primitive, regardless of whether the participant is a human, agent, or machine. So I really like this perspective. Again, this could turn into something that, is much bigger. Much bigger than some people could expect. So we're actually going to try to get them on the show. Shout out Dom. Hopefully we can get him to get the scheduling. But yeah, we'll see. Another token I wanted to put on you guys' radar. Another piece of alpha, and then I'll close out with this last one because, like I said, not much on the market that there is to touch on today. But the homie Chen's trades, V2 Chen's, he's actually a longtime homie. I actually might get him in the private Discord as well. But he's always in early to a lot of pretty big protocols. But he talks about this 169 Pi AI, one of the world's first 4-bit reasoning models. Efficiency beats scale is what the Twitter account says. But here's what he has to say about Pi. The Pi ecosystem token, Pi, is the ecosystem token for 169 Pi, and established an AI startup founded in 2023, earning 1.9 million in revenue in 2025. They have a partnership with ISRO, presenting themselves as the World Economic Forum with NDTV as AI partners. Both members of the founding team have been featured in Forbes for 169 Pi, have hosted TEDx talks on AI advancements. All this and their utility token tied to the All Pi Core only launched less than a fortnight ago. The token Pi has a plethora of utility and was only announced for stage 1. So looks like there's there's something interesting here when it comes to Pi. It seems like there's like some sort of deeper technology there. There was a write-up about Pi that I saw and wanted to share with you guys. But basically he talks about, Pi as being more of like a Tau FET render type of potential, because as you notice here, he says All Pi Core is a groundbreaking 32-bit parameter reasoning model, fully trained, fine-tuned, and served in 4-bit quantization. I gotta like dig into that to know exactly what that means, but it sounds like it sounds pretty big. Oh, look, Crypto Barba. I haven't spoke with him in a while. Good to see him still active. But here's a little bit about the utility of the token. It's used for platform credits. They can get discounted inference, higher rate limits. They can get early access to new models. So there's a lot to dig into here. I'm going to try to see if I can do a little bit more deep dive. We actually just talked about this in the Discord here, maybe just a little bit before coming on the show. So I at least wanted to just put it out there, put it on your watch list, keep an eye on it, because I feel like it could actually do very well. Let me see what the current market cap is for Pi real quick. Let me see. All right, let's see. The current market cap for All Pi Core is 1.2 million. By the way, here is the chart, just to take a quick look. So 1.2 million. As you can see, there's been some nice little traction here on the chart. So yeah, just keep it on your watch list. It looks pretty interesting. I know that the devs, they were featured on like the largest Indian media. Just like not too long ago, I think it was the dev himself was featured on. I think the media channel had like 17 million followers. That's really what to me was kind of like eye catching is, they're being highlighted by this large media company at some sort of AI conference. And I was like, okay, well, they obviously didn't get there by being a LARP or something. So just want, again, something to put on your radar. 1.2 million market cap. All right, guys. I think that's it. Crypto Jones, you're right. Could be short season. Absolutely. Look, we have WorldCoin here approaching some resistance. We have near SFP on the top approaching resistance. We have ZEC, head and shoulders. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye out for any shorts to potentially open. Lastly, let's talk about the schedule. We got a nice week up ahead to close out Thursday and Friday. And let me pull up the schedule here. Here it is. Bang. All right, MCG schedule. So today we had a fire Arcium day.
Tomorrow's about to be crazy.
Yeah, tomorrow's going to be insane, yo. So today we had Arcium day. We obviously had to see the co-founder and head of Arcium on. He was on with Tucker Carlson. Looks like their token is coming out. Metrics were going stupid. They have 18 people on the team. It was less than 20. I know. I forget the specific number, whether it's 16 or 18. But they have a very small team. They're very cracked. They have a Web 2 footprint that they're building. I mean, Arcium seems like it's going to be like legit a runner whenever it.
Bro,
yeah,
it's gonna be huge.
I'm telling y'all right now, that's certified when it launches.
I also heard they raised it 200 mil. So I'm not sure where I saw that, but it wouldn't surprise me, bro. This team is cracked. I mean, if they had that acquisition of the other Web 2 company too, bro, cracked. The Web 2 side is what's cool. I mean, the Web 3 ecosystem, they're working with all the best privacy protocols. Like, they're the infrastructure. Super cool, bro. To know that they're doing privacy for a lot of these AI enterprises on the back end for Web 2 that haven't even been announced, forget it, bro. That's the kicker. So yeah, Arcium's cracked. I'm gonna be paying attention to this Arcium token for sure.
Yeah, we got some updates from Refi Hub. 500K deployed. They had
good numbers.
They had great numbers. Revenue, tens of millions of dollars of interest. They also, they're in India, Southeast Asia, Singapore. They have a 48% reinvestment rate. I think that's also pretty telling. So I love the updates that we got there. We also had Zinc on. We were supposed to have Shift Boss, but another member of the team came on. I believe that was their head of strategy. And I think there's still more. I want to do an interview with Shift Boss. I think there's a lot more to dig into when it comes to the protocol. And I think this one could be a sleeper, but it just wasn't, if you just watched the interview today,
hard to gather a lot. I think I don't want to double dip because we try to space out guests and not have them on the show twice a month or twice every 2 months, whatever it is. But next week we do have a call that's going to fit this really perfect. So maybe we circle back and have Shift.
I think we potentially do. I think in this case we can kind of make an exception because again, it was like an emergency that he had to obviously he had to.
Josh would love to run that one too. I know that.
Yeah,
Josh is into this whole thing, this whole like mining, GambleFi, mechanism finance. I don't even know the right word, but he's really into that.
MechFi. I guess we can just we can put a pin at MechFi, I guess.
Bro, we can put a pin at MechFi, but MechFi doesn't roll off the tongue, Like,
yeah.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. Someone
we'll coin it
up in the chat. We're gonna coin something. We need to coin something before our next call, where we have all the hitters on, because that's when we need to say something. They're gonna be like, "Yo."
Maybe ask the founders. Maybe ask the founders when they come on too.
Yeah. It's valid. It's a valid thing.
But guys, tomorrow is gonna be a freaking massive stream. We got. Are you blowing the dust off your plaques?
I'm blowing. No, what's that? What's the new Drake song?
Yeah, yeah.
That's not flat. I don't know.
Yo, that oh
No, it's
man,
hot,
that
bro.
album is
Fire.
on repeat. But yeah, no, literally fire tomorrow. We have Pod coming on first at 10 a.m. A little bit of a time zone thing there, so we had to adjust the stream for them a little bit, but happy to do so. AI Lab developing uncensored models. There's a connection to VVV there. There's like
They
this
are
whole
the sole. The connection to VV is they are the sole uncensored model provider for Venice. The only one that provides uncensored models for Venice is Dolphin. That's my knowledge of it, at least. So huge. Sorry to interrupt.
yeah.
Connecting that thought there.
And shout out Medbody, bro. If you guys don't follow him, you definitely should. He was one of the very, very few that were just very convicted on Pod earlier on. So definitely want to give him a follow. But anywho, yeah, and that's Medbody, by the way, MEDBDY. That's his Twitter name. He's a really good researcher, really good guy. He's in our private Discord too. But yeah, so we have Pod coming on, absolutely cracked protocol. We have Dreams coming on as well. I know that had a run back, a few weeks ago, and it seems like the chart is holding well. Development is going well. So excited to get like some updated numbers. We have Velnet coming on, and then we also have Set Infra. A lot of people are excited about this on-chain identity layer that they're building on Solana. So, dude, we just got some good projects for y'all, man. Like, I hope you guys are enjoying this. Light up the chat if you are. But that's the stream that we have planned for tomorrow. Friday, we're going to talk to Degen 2 Disciple. He basically turned $700 into 100,000, 6 bandos, and so going to be really interesting to get a sense of his journey, what he's learned, how to run up a smaller account, etc. I'm excited to talk to him about that. And then lastly, we have Sonder on. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about his project Fire on Base. It's been building a nice little community over there, but I want to talk to Sonder, just him by himself. Just him as a trader, him as a participant in this market. He's basically ran portfolios up to 6 figures, down to 0, and back up to 6 figures again. He's done that over and over and over. So Friday is going to be like a lot of sauce for you as a trader. If you're a person and you've zeroed out your account, whether you zeroed it out on 1010, you zeroed it out chasing meme coins, you zeroed it out because you got, bundled and farmed or whatever, come to Friday's stream, listen to how some real traders have come into this market and they've applied a strategy that resulted in 6-figure earnings, right? And in Bruce's case, he's done it publicly. In Sonder's case, he's also done it publicly as well.
You guys don't have
Twitter.
to bottom out either, just for what it's worth. You can tune on even if you are doing good.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be just a lot of just free alpha, free sauce for any and everyone. I mean, these are seasoned traders that we all can learn from. So definitely swing by the stream. Check us out. Nice. Looking forward to Friday's show. Appreciate you. Definitely looking forward to it as well. But that's the stream for today, man. Look, it's 1,500 of you guys here. I want y'all all to do me a favor. I want you to go to at MCG Live, scroll down. Thank you for 10.5K. Scroll down to our pinned tweet, right? And I want you to do 2 things. Hit the like and hit the RT, right? You guys are here now. We appreciate y'all for joining, but there are many people who will be enjoying the recording. But yeah, look, guys, appreciate y'all. Appreciate the love. Appreciate the support. We're here Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Real quick. Follow the YouTube. Yeah. Look, we get it. The feed is flooded. We're trying to figure out a good solution to where we're getting content out, but not flooding the feed. We got MCG Alpha for all the notes. Hit the link tree. Follow the YouTube. That's where we upload all 3 of these episodes from today. Will most likely go out on the YouTube. So it can be difficult finding stuff. YouTube's got it all. Or you could, of course, search in the top right corner when you're on the MCG profile, the name of the protocol, right? So Squire or whatever it might be, it'll pop up. But the YouTube's going to be the easiest place for you. People keep asking us about this. We need a website. We got to do this right. But in the meantime, YouTube is your best bet.
Yeah, hit our YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube. We actually have like pretty nice little subscription
Little
game
700.
going on. A little 700, you know, something light, but I mean that's building up from zero though. So
YouTube's
look,
tricky,
appreciate
man.
the love. Yeah,
This is not a
appreciate the
YouTube.
love, guys.
For sure.
But yeah, check us out tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see you guys there. Until then, I'll see you if you're in a private Discord, and then I'll see you if you're not on the timeline. Deuces, y'all. Trade well.